Thea, maybe you could go do this. Let's show everybody Helen Keller, because, and I'll give you a preparation to this. What we're going to be talking today about is that our schools didn't teach us how to think, and our schools didn't teach us how to read, and that we have this incredible God-given gift that was built into all of us, and we used it as babies. We used it off the chart great, and then our parents rejoiced the day we started using the words of the house, and the more we got into the words of the house, the more we got away from the genius that was inside that had us learning at warp speed. And so Helen Keller is an incredible example of an absolute brilliant person that at a very young age, at about 2 years old, got meningitis, and it shut her down. And in that time, they didn't have the foggiest idea what to do with her. And she is incorrigible. I mean, nobody can handle her. Well, no wonder. She's a lion trapped and understands nothing that is going on in her world. Nothing. She is a genius entrapped. And the process by which she got unleashed, she was blind and deaf. Meningitis made her blind and deaf. Can you imagine what that was like? Well, the amazing thing is to recognize that I have an incredible capacity to be blind and deaf. Today, still. As long as I think that life is lived on the outer man from the soul, and that my thoughts about what's going on out here are the ones that are accurate and real, and everybody else is messed up, or they don't understand me, or I can't get it, all those kind of things. And so let's watch this short clip here about Helen Keller, because it's a good thing for us to do. I wanted to do it later, but seeing that we're having some folks that are still coming in, some of you are going to get this and some won't get it, but it's still wonderful.
W-A-T-E-R, water. It has a name. W-A-T. Oh, my dear. Round. Yes. Pump.
Okay, I'm going to explain that in just a minute, but let me ask you to please take your hands off the keyboard, because we're not going to be answering your questions while we're doing this. It's not possible. You can't do that. Okay. Let me tell you another problem. I've shut my phone off because it would be ringing. There are people that are not here because they tried to come in to the other number instead of coming where we sent the notice that this would be. So we're not going to wait. They may never get here. If they call you, then maybe you can steer them where they're supposed to come to. But we had over 200, and so right now 153 have found their way here. And so that's where we are. All right, so I'm going to start, but let me just explain. And I can't watch what we just saw without having to hold back the tears. I just can't do it, because when that movie first came out, it was the first year that Kim and I got married, and that's Patty Duke, by the way, playing that child role. I enjoyed it. It was a blessing to me. But after Rediscovery of the Heart, and I understood what was really happening, I can't watch it without it just blowing me away. So the question is, how much are you like Helen? How much am I like Helen? Thea and I, and by the way, some of you not met Thea. Thea's the midwife of everything that's here, Rediscovery of the Heart. And we've been doing this together now for 10 years. You'll hear a little bit more from her, because this is about finding your voice. And that's a wonderful phrase that came from Stephen Covey, that the reason that people are in such bad shape is they don't have a voice. How to go from to this, how to get to the 8th habit, all about the heart. And the number one issue in here was you have to find your voice. And the only way to find your voice is for the heart to be filled with passion for something your conscience pulls you to. So Thea came into the relationship with me like many of you. And out of that place, she didn't think she had anything to say. She was careful about what she said. She was intimidated. I was very careful. She's guarded, protecting herself. And within 2 years' time, she's teaching PhDs and teaching Bible students and teaching people, because she got at peace about who she was, discovered who she was. And out of that came just the wonderful capacity to communicate and to teach. And so the objective is for, as we learn to live from the heart, teachers from the heart become teachers from the heart. And Mark Victor Hansen says it this way: each one teach one till all are taught. So that's what we're about. So let's talk for just a minute about the video we just watched. Helen Keller. As a young child, she has meningitis, she turns blind, she turns deaf, and she's locked in a cage. This absolute brilliant person locked in a cage like we all are, but how much greater would that cage be if we couldn't see and we couldn't hear? And nobody knows how to communicate with us. And she's living like a caged animal and expresses that frustration, that fear constantly. Her parents send for Annie Sullivan, who comes and has a real hard time with the parents, because the parents are cuddling her and they're condescending to her. And Annie has to get her away from the parents. All of us have to get away sometimes so that we can get free. That's just really, really essential. But here's what happened. Annie forced her to learn the sign language of the alphabet in her hands. Forced her. She didn't want to do it. She forced her some more. She didn't want to do it. She forced her some more. And slowly but surely, Annie has programmed into the synapses of her brain the alphabet, but she doesn't know what it is. She's got the entire alphabet and she does not know what it is. And the scene we just watched is when her cage lion gets free. And it's over water. That she had heard sounds as a child. She was fine as a child. She was moving as a child. It won't do you any good to raise your hand, folks, because we're not bringing anybody in. So, okay. So the bottom line here is this. That at a given point in time, she suddenly understood that maybe she knew what this was, water. And her teacher has taken that alphabet and spelled out water in her hand and poured water on her hand, does it more than once, does it more than once, and suddenly it happens. And when it happens, Helen spells out water. What was in there, the genius that was in there, got unlocked. And the next thing she wanted to know is, what's this? What's this? What's this? What's this? And it's being spelled out for her. And then she has a prolific life, sharing and teaching. Incredible. It's just off the chart. Before the day's over, you're going to understand more what that's really, really all about. So let's get started. And I'm really sorry for the people that got lost. I'm one of these people that don't follow instructions well, so I understand people that don't follow instructions well. Make assumptions. Oh, I know where to go. Okay. So anyway, maybe slowly but surely people will discover, there was email more than once telling me where to come to. So okay, let's go. I'm going to bring you in. I think I'm going to bring you in. Yep. And we're going to take off on a wonderful journey. So Thea, you need to unmute so that you can hang with me here and make sure that what I'm wanting everybody to see can be seen.
We're good.
Well, we don't know you. Still good?
Yes, sir.
Well, I've got copy here that did not pull over. And I don't know why that is. Let me come here to see if this, okay, this one made it. This one didn't. I don't know why. So let me just tell you about these two primary sources. For everything that we study, we use ancient Hebrew. That's where we start. And I'm talking about the big book, okay? We use ancient Hebrew and we use nature, because we should take the ancient Hebrew scripture, and then if we have eyes to see, all of creation reveals the heart. I can study anything that is in nature and learn about my heart, and I can study anything that has been created by man or developed by man and learn about my heart, including what we're wearing right here. I can learn about my heart more by understanding this. So that's the way it is, because God created everything by principle and everything works that way. So in the rediscovery of the heart, it all started this way. In 1984, I was awakened at 4 o'clock in the morning and knew that the Father was telling me to study the word heart. Now, at that point, I'd been in a Bible teaching for 17 years. I was a psychology major in school. I was a motivational guru. By the time I was 24 years, I'd been studying the subconscious, unconscious for over 20 years when I have the instruction to study the word heart. And I use the word heart all day long, just like you use it and everybody else uses it. But I was in for the adventure of my life that's still going on. If it hadn't been for that encounter at 4 o'clock in the morning, none of us would be here right now. I don't know where you'd be, but you wouldn't be here. So here's the bottom line. And it's that we've talked a lot about fractal. We're going to talk about it more, because the more we understand fractal, we understand what's happening with this. You can't really comprehend what's happening with this if you don't understand fractal. You can get it, but you can't get as deeply as you get it if you get fractal, because everything that's happening in here is fractal formulas that are in these holograms that are releasing these frequencies on a holographic basis. And they come roaring in at 186,000 miles per second. What? Multiplying that fractal over and over and over and over. But that's the way our whole lives work. So the first time in Hebrew language that a word shows up, the first time that word is the root. And that is the root that says every other time that this word is going to be used in the future, and it must always stay connected to the root. If it doesn't, you'll end up looking at branches off the word heart, for example, and not know what the word heart means because you didn't get the root. That was true for me, and that's true. I have done this with PhDs in psychology. I've done this with ministers that have been in ministry for years and years and years and years, great Bible teachers, and they can't tell me what the heart is. And it's because they didn't get this. So here it is. The first use of the word heart seals the Hebrew fractal formula. Every yetzer, every image of the thoughts of the heart. The language of the heart is visual, not verbal. Now, I'm just asking you to just really relax, because you're going to hear so much here today that you've not heard. You'll go crazy if you just try to keep notes and keep up with everything with notes. You really will. Your hearts are going to get much, much more. It's how you feel when this is over more than how much you comprehended intellectually. And you're going to understand that more as we go along. But the language of the heart is visual, not verbal. Big deal. Now, science is beginning to get awake to this. Antonio Damasio is one of the foremost neuroscientists in the world, and he is being talked about for a Nobel Prize because he now is saying it's impossible to have a thought without an image. And they're talking about giving the man a Nobel Prize for it. And I've jokingly said, why don't they give it to me? I was saying it a long time before him. But the truth of the matter is, I didn't say it, I read it and then said it. God said it first, not Larry said it first. The image of the thoughts of the heart. Now, in Rediscovery of the Heart, we go into real depths about this, about how those three words are connected together. It's construct, state, in Hebrew, and it literally says, this one verse is telling you exactly what the heart is, where it is, what language it speaks. Images of the thoughts of the heart. Now, left brain people like me, and the vast majority of all of us have been overtrained left brain, will say, that's not true. I don't think in images. I think in words. And that is absolutely impossible. But left brain people don't know it. Okay? So the question becomes, what is the heart? Where is the heart? How do we get to the heart? What language does the heart speak? Well, the heart's in a quadrillion places and no place at all. We're going to look at that in real detail. Now, you have been blessed. You were born with the true seed, and it's not a Greek seed. The seed you were born with predates the Greek mindset that's dominated Western thought for centuries. But if you water that seed and you cultivate it, you can discover the person you were created to be. Thea is so much more aware today of who she is than she was when I met her, because she was trying to be who she thought other people wanted her to be, and she's trying to be somebody to be accepted by everybody. So you can't tell people what you think because they might not accept. They might think you're dumb. Okay, big deal. So here's what we're after. There's a lion genius inside you. It's locked in a cage deep in your heart, and it's time to turn it loose. And this is a pathway. We start over every single day. I should have said to you at the beginning, there's something you need to know about me, and it's really, really important that I can talk this much better than I can walk it. Please hear it. I can talk it much better than I can walk it. So, where are we going with this? Well, there's two ancient Hebrew images that really, really make this very clear. Comes out of Ezekiel with the cherubim that are carrying this magnificent king on this throne. And the lion's on the right and the ox is on the left. Solomon said these words, "The wise of heart is to the right, the heart of the fools to the left." I will tell you that he said that a long time before Sperry ever came up with, whoa, the right and the left are not identical twins. And we're going to look at that. But the majestic lion is the preeminent emblem for rule, leadership, and monarchy. The powerful ox is the primary symbol for work, service, and productivity. We've both been given both. Nothing happens until the ox engages, but nothing creative or real that can bring wonderful change until the lion gets the bright idea, the creative thought, the life thought. Then the ox brings it about, and both are absolutely essential. But here's what we've missed, and it's a big miss. The Father created a genius code in the human DNA, and science is starting to discover it. What I'm saying to you is every single baby is a genius. We'll talk more about this, but this is absolutely huge. All of us were learning at warp speed when we were babies. We learned on the basis of images and how we felt about what we were experiencing. Now, this has been proven, and it's proven in an embarrassing way because the world is still ignoring what you see on the screen is the second book that was written out of the Gentle Revolution. And this is a baby. This is I think this one was 14 months being taught math. Genius. So the mother has just told the baby that the baby is looking at 97, and she'll do it over and over and over. Please stay with me. The baby is not being taught a number. The baby's being shown a reality. And the reality is there's 97 dots. Now, that child right there could look at this page and instantly know exactly how many dots are in each of those 4 different patterns because they're all the same, 40. And this baby is not learning 40 as a 4 and a 0. It's learning 40 realities. And guess what this baby could do? And you could have done it if we'd been taught. I could have done it because this baby, as quick as the baby can talk, from the seat in the back of the car, could be driving down the highway with mommy, look at a field and say, "Mommy, 67 cows." Because the baby knows reality. And the baby is not counting 67 cows. The baby knows what 67 realities look like. Because all this brilliant genius up here has been programmed to see realities and not numbers that represent reality. Oh, is that ever a big door for us, for me, for you? here's something we need to know. There are no new doors. The real secret to the genius inside you, the real secret to maximum peak performance, the way out of the house that we've been locked in, is the rediscovery of the heart. If we learn what the heart is, where it is, how to get there, then we can know, listen to this is critical, freedom from the past. And there's not a single one of us here that do not need freedom from places in the past. We can know what freedom is. We can know how to be more and more real and how to experience peak performance. And the image maker is the only door out of the house of our confinement. It's the only one. Remember, that's where we were at the very beginning back here. We were all the way back here. And here's where we were. This is our code word. Every image gets there. Sometimes it'll be translated imagination. That's a good old Greek word, but it misses what the Hebrew means with image maker. Misses it big time. So this is this child learning how to do this, and here we are saying, let's get out. Let's get out of being trapped in this place right here. Let's go someplace else. So the question is, how do we get to where we are? What's the problem? Well, here's the problem. Our schools, our industries, and our religious institutions have not known or taught us how to use our most God-given gift. It's the key to peak performance. So we're going to talk about two things here that we weren't taught in school. I've had fun with this through the years. That Fayed were talking, and now we're talking yesterday about how wonderful it would be to be able to be in a big room with all of us here so that we could really be interacting, because I feed on being able to see who's getting it, who's lighting up. I feed on being able to know I just hit a left brain ox right in the eyes, and they're already glazed over. They don't have the foggiest idea of what's being said. That's what happens. And they can be PhDs in psychology and still be absolutely locked in and not understand. It's a wonderful thing to watch. So through the years, I've often started right here and say, today we're going to learn to do two things we weren't taught in school. One's how to read and how to think. Now, if I ask you, and we were all in that room, can I see the hands of everybody that knows how to read? No trick questions. How many of you know how to read? Well, almost everybody would raise their hand. I know how to read. And I said, well, yes, if that's what reading is. But the word read actually comes from the root that same as ready. So I used to say it this way. There's no need reading this book if you're not going to implement it. Just watch another football game. Watch another Hallmark movie. Do something else. There's no need to read anything if you're not going to implement it, because the very essence of read is to be ready, to be quick, to be prompt. That if there's something of value there, I need to integrate it into my life. But the real deep insight comes from the Hebrew word for read. Now, for some reason, that left something off the page too, and I do not know why, folks. I'm sorry. I'll just have to fill it in for you. Authentic reading is not seeing words on a page. It's the Hebrew word kara, which means to call, to cry out, to encounter. So authentic reading, this gets really important when we're reading the Hebrew scriptures. Authentic reading is recognizing that we're meeting and having an encounter with the author. Oh my. In other words, we're supposed to begin to see what the author is seeing. Now, where this gets really important for all of us, folks, is simply this. What if this is not true? But got any way of knowing whether this is true? I've got all kinds of books. I always use the big book to see if these guys are telling the truth. Any place they disagree with the big book, they're wrong. Same thing with science. Anybody tells me about this technology and they're telling me something that disagrees with the big book, they're wrong. I know why this works. I know exactly why it works. I just don't know the details, but I know why it works. It works because the Father, the source of life, said, be light, and light is the energy of life. Water is the substance of life. Outer space, we're not looking for anything out here except water. There's light out here everywhere. But what causes water to be alive is light. But without water, you can't have plants. And if you don't have plants, you don't have storage of life. If you don't have the storage of life, you have no oxygen, and you have no way to get the supply of food that comes to us without the plants. And all the different frequencies that are all in these wonderful plants that God created, that Mike and his associates spent 11 years searching for what are the frequencies in plants that could be put in here so that the frequencies of life could be released at 186,000 miles per second into our bodies and go to 70 trillion cells. Like that. Well, I get it, but I don't get it because I get this. I get it because I get light, water, and plants. And you can put me in the room with the most brilliant scientists in the world, and they'll use all these massive big words on me that I don't have the foggiest idea of what they said, and they can keep me where after they're through saying everything they're going to say, and I mean everything they're going to say, I would ask a simple question. Did you just tell me that that light is the source of energy? Did you just tell me that water is the substance of life? Did you just tell me that plants is where it's stored? And if they say no, they're wrong. Isn't that amazing? It's all out of Genesis chapter 1. So I read this to meet the author and to get what the author's thoughts are. But I got to be careful because he writes out of the images in his own heart by the input of the spirit that's behind his words. So I got to be able to discern, and I got to have some source that I know where authentic truth is, or it doesn't matter if there's not an authentic source. So this is a big deal. Learning to read means implementation of what we've read, or we just picked up data and it has no value to us, just data by itself. If it's worth reading, implement it. If it's not, set it aside. I'll read a book and sometimes I'll get 2 things out of it that change my life. Well, okay, that's wonderful if I implement it and it does and it fits. Well, here's another big one. So we weren't really taught how to read, not from a Hebrew perspective. Here's a big one. We weren't taught how to think. I love doing this in seminar settings because I get everybody to say with me out loud, memorization is not thinking. And when we do that, then I come back and ask a simple question: what did our school systems teach us to do? Remember, this is what we're after. We weren't taught in school how to read or how to think, not from ancient Hebrew, not from the Father's perspective. Memorization is not thinking. In fact, memorization often becomes thinking's greatest enemy. Let me give you an example. If Thea were my professor in school, she's written 4 books. She's a recognized PhD. Everybody loves Thea. And she gives me all of her wonderful notes and quotes from her friends that she goes to seminars with. And she gives me a test. And I say to her, this is what you said. And I give it to her exactly like she said it, or it's in her book. If I give it back to her the way she gave it to me, she'll give me an A. If I get close, she'll give me a B. If I'm in the vicinity, she'll give me a C. If I'm not close, she'll give me a D and F. What do you think happens if I say to my PhD Thea, you know, I didn't agree with you or your friends. Here's what I think. The average college professor, PhD, would not know how to grade it because all they know how to grade is regurgitation. That's how they got their PhD, regurgitation. They didn't get their PhD from saying to the PhDs that taught them, I don't agree with what you said, here's what I think. You'd never get a PhD unless you agreed with the ones who are judging you to see if you're smart enough to get a PhD. But you got to be saying it like they say it. That makes sense to anybody other than me? It's a big deal. Well, let's talk about authentic thought. Now, I'm going to explain to you immediately why, as we start sharing this wonderful vision and what we're all about, why there is a built-in no if people think that you're talking about multi-level marketing. I'm going to show you why. Here's authentic thought. Leah, I don't know what's happening here. I'm not being able to get these slides to show up. There's so much here that's not showing up. I wonder if I come back out and just go through this on the sides, they will show up. Let's see. Hate to do that because you can get ahead, but it may work best that way. That's not going to do it. Let's see now. Thea, you still there? Thea.
I am.
Okay, good. I needed to hear. All right, thank you. So let's get down here and see if we can see them better this way. You can see that now?
Yeah, Larry, those slides are animated. So the moment that you click on it, the rest of the text is coming up.
Oh, if I hit one more, it'll come up?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so let me go do that. I was not aware we had any of those left. Okay, authentic thoughts. Can you see the whole now?
I can see now with the second part of the text on it.
Okay, good. What's authentic thought? We've not really thought about anything until we think about what we've thought. I want you to ponder that. We've not really thought about anything until we think about what we've thought. Because what are the first thoughts? Previous programming. It's here's this information and what I think about this information, and it will be absolutely interpreted through what I already think. So until we get still and we think about what we thought, we've not really thought. That's this previous programming. Okay. So what's it mean? Well, no one knows the thoughts of a man except the spirit of a man that's in him. No one. So here's what real thinkers frequently say. I was wrong. Now, I'm getting close to 58 years of being married to Kim. 58 years. And in those 58 years, how many times do you think that we've had a disagreement? Well, the last one was about an hour ago. So how many times do you think she's tried to help me? And how many times do you think that I have defended, trying to protect myself from whatever it was she was going to say? How many? You cannot imagine how many times that I've got away from defending myself, away from attacking or whatever I did to try to defend myself, and got still and said, uh-oh, I was wrong. I reacted, I didn't respond. I was wrong. And then I've had to come and say to her, I was wrong. Now, one of the things that you will discover as we go through this, I can show you that these words right here are wonderfully liberating. So, this is what thinking is in Hebrew. It's from the Hebrew word hashav. It's holistic image making. It's not remotely just words. It's not remotely just my thoughts. It's not remotely just the data that I know. Hashav is holistic. As much as possible, think in terms of the whole. It's where invention comes from. It's where design comes from. It's where planning and considering and getting the feeling involved. It's all of this. So in ancient Hebrew, all the emphasis is on the verb, because everything is meant to be experiential, being seen, being experienced. And so when we take data and we turn it into a verb, then we can say, well, what does this look like in action? What does this look like? So the beautiful thing that is coming out of this is the world is changing, but it's not changing very fast. So it's all about left and right. Remember, the right is where the visual, the seeing comes from. The left is where calculations come from. So let me tell you about my experience right here. Now, there's a book that is up on Google, Amazon, that's just a ebook called Learning How to Learn at the Speed of Light. So let me tell you how I got introduced to left brain, right brain. In 1984, I've been studying heart. That meant what? 1,000 verses that I had to meditate on and say, okay, the starting point is images of the thoughts. Now I can go with that and always be plugging that in. When heart is used, I know now that I'm talking about the images that are behind the thoughts that are in the heart. And the heart is massive. Okay. So let me tell you about this son. This son started having trouble in school about the third or the fourth grade. Those problems continued. In the 8th grade, we had him do the 8th grade over. It made no difference whatsoever. At the end of his sophomore year, some friends of ours said, you really need to have Jamie tested for a learning disability. Okay. So we go to the #1 person in Nashville to work with children with learning disabilities, and she gives Jamie a test and tells us to come back in a week, and we come back. When we walk in the room, she says these words to me. She says, I bet Jamie's a good athlete. I said, he's the best shot with a basketball at 10 years old I ever saw for that age, and I'm from the mountains of Kentucky. She said, I knew it. I said, how did you know it? She said, well, I gave him a very sharp pencil and asked him to draw the smallest circle he could draw with an X on the inside that I could still see the X. And she said, he's drawn the smallest that I've ever seen. And then she said these words to me. This is 1984. Jamie is the most right-brained child I ever tested. Oh, I was a psychology major in school, but Sperry didn't get his Nobel Prize to 81, and still most of the world does not know functionally the distinction between left and right. A lot of people are picked up on it as an excuse for why they do what they do. It's not supposed to be an excuse. It's supposed to be the capacity to learn to operate from both sides. It's really nice for somebody to say, well, I'm just left brain. Well, if you're left brain, you're an ox, and your lion's still in a cage. So guess what happens here? She says, well, I said, well, I don't know what you're talking about, right brain. She said, well, it's like this. And she starts describing that Jamie can take a sentence and read the sentence and get something out of it that 95% of the students can't get. Sounds good to me. She said his problem is he can read the sentence and not get from it a paragraph. He can read a paragraph and not get from what 95% can. He is extreme right. He's visual, and words give him fits, and instantly Kim's got tears in her eyes. And she says out loud, Lord, I gave him my problem. Now, she's one of the most brilliant people that I've ever known, and she talked about how difficult school was for her. I could never understand it. I was a bum in school, but I could make A's on anything I wanted to. I just didn't study. She studied and couldn't get it. So the lady continues to describe the characteristics that start coming up over here. This is Roger Sperry, and he wins his Nobel Prize for the right and left brain, says they're not identical twins. And as this lady is describing for us what the right is, she keeps using these kinds of words. I turned to Kim and I said to Kim, she's describing the Hebrew heart. And Kim looked at me. She's describing the words for the Hebrew heart. Well, this woman said of this kid right here, just get him out of school. He won't do anything that involves thinking. Yeah. When I get this picture, I said to Kim, I know what to do with Jamie, but we're at the end of school. Let's just let him relax. We were on summer break. It's the end of summer. He's had no school. We've not talked about anything, because nothing in his life indicated there was anything other than brilliant, except he couldn't make any good grades in school. Now, folks, I've done these seminars in front of thousands and thousands and thousands of people, and I have had grown men follow me crying because they had the grades to prove they were dumb. And it's totally a farce, because God didn't make anything but geniuses. What it really means is that they were more right, like Jamie, and they couldn't handle left brain oxen teaching them. And that's all the left brain oxen could do, is teach the left brain words, concepts, the left brain way. Didn't have the foggiest idea how to relate to Helen Keller. No idea how you tapped a genius on the inside. Didn't even know it was in there. So at the end of the summer, it was time for us to come back to school. It was Saturday morning. We were down in Gulf Shores, and we're getting ready to come back home. And I had a USA Today. I handed it to Jamie, and it had a schematic on it, the selection time of the 4 president and vice president candidates: Ronald Reagan, George Bush, Walter Mondale, Geraldine Ferraro, and it showed their incomes from the year before. All of them 6 figures, except for Bush's, and Bush was 7. I handed it to Jamie, and I asked him to do an amazing thing. Close your eyes. I showed him the schematic first, and I said, close your eyes. Then I asked this incredibly stunning question. Can you see it? He said, yes, I can see it. And he opened his eyes and said, yes, I can see it. And I said, wait a minute. Look at it again. Close your eyes. Are you telling me you can see that? He said, Pop, I can see it. I said, hand me the paper. He handed me the paper. I said, what did George Bush make last year? He told me. What did Geraldine Ferraro make last year? He told me. Are you all getting this? He told me all 4 of those big numbers that he had taken a picture of instantly. That was in the morning. I wore him out with all the kids. We played in the surf. We played tennis. That night, went in to pray with him, and he's almost gone. And I carry the paper in, and I said, by the way, Jamie, what did George Bush make last year? He told me, and without me asking, he told me what the other three made. Genius flunking out of school. Genius. I said, okay, Jamie, let me work with you. I need to work with you in this coming school year. So when we get back to school, I need you to let me know when you get ready to take your first test. We got back. School started on Monday. I was so busy. And lo and behold, Wednesday comes and Jamie brings me another D. And I said, Jamie, that's Papa's D. I'm really sorry. Let me help you with your next exam. He said, well, I've got a huge one. Got a really big one that's coming up. So it's on Friday. He brought me 6 pages of notes on Thursday night. And I said, remember the game we played last week? Please hear this. The game. Learning's supposed to be fun. God created learning to be fun. And learning is absolutely fun. And babies thrive on learning. And they love to learn. That's the ultimate play for them, is learning. They love to learn. So I said, the game we played last week. See, learning is fun until the teacher tries to take the student to 3 when they didn't get 1 and 2 related to each other. When that happens, there's no capacity inside this brilliant mind up here because there's no way to make the connections. And learning becomes hard the instant that the connection is lost, if it's between important points. So remember that game. So here's what I want you to do. I want you to look at a sentence, close your eyes, read it out loud. If it's too long, just break it up in sentences. He came to me in about 20 minutes, and I thought he came to ask me a question. He had it cold. He made 98 on the next exam. He went from D's to A's at the speed of light, like that. Wow. So I go to see his teachers, and I meet with all of them. All of them are great except one. And I know that I know if we were in this room, the sounds that would come, because I've heard them over and over. This one teacher said to me, with my son sitting right next to me, Mr. Napier, I don't have time to teach a child with a learning disability. And I said, he does not have a learning disability. You have a teaching disability. And I don't know how many kids you're going to mess up. But the day will come that you're going to hear what I'm trying to share. And you're going to be embarrassed and know how many kids you messed up. Well, let me tell you what this kid does. The house he's building right now is a $35 million mansion for the Nashville Cy Young baseball player that is building a $35 million house. But he's built lots of $20 million houses, and he did the $12 million remodel on Gore's house 4 years ago. That's this dummy. You got to be kidding me. This dummy is a genius. He has to interface with world-class architects, world-class interior decorators, with wealthy people building their dream home. And you ought to see the bundles of blueprints that he has to deal with, because every room is unique. And he has to oversee and marshal turning all of those things on a page into reality. And I'm glad he has to do it because he can see it. His father couldn't. Genius. Well, his younger brother's come this afternoon to help his mama with something. His younger brother's Mensa Society, top 1% IQ, tested. He was one of 4. There's some huge game. I don't even know how to play it. Bill Gates and his family play it. They have a big contest. My son was in the top 4. top 4 in the nation, mentioned in an article with Bill Gates. That genius. Is everybody listening? That genius can't beat this dummy in chess because he can't see as well as your brother can see. So what's this mean? Where are we? What's this really all about? So I'm gonna go here, and we're gonna do about another 5 to 10 minutes, and then we'll take a 10-minute break. Okay. This is what is absolutely stunning. Just remember, ancient Hebrew is our source. Everything else is supplemental, but that's our bedrock to say what's going on. Well, watch this. Get ready to have an intellectual joke. There's no Hebrew roots for these basic ox words. Mind. There's not a Hebrew word for mind. There's not a Hebrew word for word, read, or think. It means we have to start over. So, Thea, I don't know how to hand this to you. Can you see, can you ask, because I want you to pick up here, just give a quick little review here of what happened in Israel when we put this up, and the next 2 are Debar and Midbar, and then we'll stop and have a break.
Okay.
Can you control these, or do I need to?
You need to control these.
Okay, so tell about what happened in Israel. Thea had us Alex and I did a seminar in Israel, and we're in front of a very Jewish audience, and Thea's doing Hebrew translation, and I put up this sign. This slide. Why don't you tell what happened?
So Larry puts up these slides, and there is this American English-speaking man who doesn't know speaking Hebrew, says there are no Hebrew root words for these basic ox words. There's no Hebrew word for mind, no Hebrew word for word, no Hebrew word for read, and no Hebrew word for thinking. So now all the people in the audience, there are many heads who start to shake, like, no, this is not true. And the heads that are not shaking are kind of, what is he saying? What is this about? And I remember having that same visceral reaction the first time that I saw this slide and heard Larry say this. Is he kidding? Listen carefully. There is no Hebrew word for mind. Why is that important? If you go to the authentic Hebrew text in the ancient Hebrew, and you go and you compare that with the English translation, every time that you see the English word mind in the original text, it has the Hebrew word for heart. It doesn't have a word for mind. It has the Hebrew word for heart. English translators translated into mind to adapt it to their worldview, to their mindset of thinking, to their to their concepts, totally ignoring what the original really is all about.
Wow. So let's go. We're going to look now at, the big shock and where people shook their head the most is because I'd said there's no Hebrew word for mind. Okay. But they also, if I said there's no Hebrew word for jacket, they would say, yes, there is jacket. There's no Hebrew word for telephone. Yeah, there is ha telephone. In other words, you can use the word mind, but Thea is so wonderful for me because Thea, this is very early in our relationship, but she is learning at warp speed. And when some people started shaking their head, it was over this word mind. That was the first one. And Thea did not even turn to me and say they're asking a question. She just answered the question, and pretty soon everybody's head's nodding, and away we go. So here's the next one, big deal. No Hebrew word for the word word.
Yes. This is when I first saw Larry on the Rediscovery the Heart seminar teaching this. Again, I mean, I am in Israel. I'm speaking Hebrew. I am doing small talks in Hebrew. I'm doing groceries in Hebrew. I'm reading the newspaper. I'm watching TV in Hebrew. I argue with my husband and with my kids in Hebrew, and I love them in Hebrew. I live in the Hebrew language, okay? And now comes this person who identifies himself as someone from the hills of Kentucky, doesn't know Hebrew, and says there is no Hebrew word for word because the Hebrew word, the root word for word, dabar, means the reality, means the essence, not the label. It means the thing itself. And I stop for a moment and I say, oh my goodness, he's right. When I talk about a dabar, I talk about a thing, about a reality. I'm not talking about a word label. I'm talking about a reality, something that I can touch, something that I can see, something that I can smell, taste, all that. So here it is. If you are coming from a long walk on a hot summer day, and you're coming past my house, and your head is already red of the heat, and you're exhausted, and you're about to faint, and I see you coming, and I see the condition that you're in, and I'm coming running at you, and I'm asking you, can I get you a glass of water? And you say with the last strength that's in you, yes. I run inside, I take a piece of paper, I write the word glass of water on it. I bring it to you very carefully, not to spill a drop, and hand it over to you. Would that help you? Never, ever. You do not need a label written on a piece of paper. You need the thing itself. You want a real glass of real water. And here is where I really got excited, where I really got hooked on this material. This is the next slide that Larry is putting up. Midbar, wilderness. It's from the same root as dabar. Dabar meaning reality. Midbar, the Hebrew word for wilderness or desert. And this is a picture of the deadest desert that we know here in Israel. It's the Judean desert. It is where the Dead Sea is. There is no life. You see, it is absolutely, there's nothing. There's no life, no growth. It's dry. This is the absence of reality. This is the absence of essence. It is exactly the opposite. This is where we are when we live from the head in labels and in concepts instead of in the heart with the realities. This is how our life looks like if we're living out of words written on a piece of paper instead of the experienced realities.
It's such a big deal because I'm kind of like the king of left brain oxen. And so how do you tell me that I don't know something when I can define it? But one of the things we will learn as we go along is being able to find something does not remotely know we know what it means. Because in Hebrew, meaning is a heart experiential thing. It's not a conceptual thing. There's no abstract words in Hebrew. Every single Hebrew word is a dabar. It's a reality. It's meant to be experiential. So when we lost the reality that the language of the heart is images and we don't even know it, and a left brain ox will debate it, then we're right here in the middle of Debar. No, we're not. We're in the middle of Midbar. That's where we are. We're saying, I've got a sheet of paper and it's a glass of water, and if you're really thirsty, I'll get you some more. That's what we're saying. We do that in our conversations with each other over and over and over and over. I've taught all of my grandkids to never be intimidated by a teacher and to be willing to say to any teacher, I didn't get what you said. Would you say it over? And you know where the problem is? If they have a left brain teacher, the left brain teacher will say it just like they said it, because that's all they know is the concept. A real teacher can say, oh, well, let me illustrate it. And I've taught my grandkids, when they give it back the same way, you can say, but that's what you said before, and I don't understand it. Can you say it another way? A left brain teacher can't. They only know regurgitation. They don't experientially know it. I've told some of you, as we've talked about this whole concept of the third dimension and what we're doing with the math, of being with PhDs, 2 PhDs, teaching college math, one the head of department, and that I went through the compensation design in front of them, and neither one of them could get it. And I started laughing with both, not condescending, but it was hilarious to me, because the last math I had was Algebra 1 in high school. I ran from math, hated math. And the reason I hated math is because as the little genius making straight A's in math, I had a teacher call me the board one day with a reading problem and a lockdown. And so the teacher decided to explain to everybody that the little genius can't get it, so y'all will feel better. And I hated math from that day on. I thought it was math instead of a teacher making me a goat. Hated math. Genius. You're a genius. I'm a genius. I can get math. If you got a good teacher, I can get it. Okay. But that's the difference in here. Now I want to look at 2 others real quick, and then I'm going to come back out of here and we'll take a break. But I want you to see this man right here. What's Albert Einstein's greatest revelation? E equals mc squared. Everything is energy. That's what people would say. His greatest revelation is not E equals mc squared. It's how he discovered mc squared. And he said it this way: the imagination is more important than knowledge. Einstein saw himself on a beam of sunlight like he was on a surfboard, and instantaneously he got what it took him 14 years to be able to prove mathematically. And when people asked him how he had the patience, he said, I was only working on the details. But this man, genius, what's he say? The imagination is more important than knowledge. Well, listen to me carefully. How many people believed him? How much money has been spent on mathematics since Einstein said E equals mc squared, and physics? How much money has been spent? You couldn't count it. How many PhDs have been given in mathematics and physics since he said this? Let me ask it another way. How many chairs are there in universities on the imagination? Image maker. How much money has been spent in colleges and saying, let's go develop the genius that's inside every single student we're here, instead of ignoring the genius that's inside them? How much? He's been totally ignored. The only people that quote this is motivational speakers, and they quote it because they get a hint of it. But if you don't have the Hebrew view of it, you got a hint of how important it is. And you may even say, before you hit a golf shot, visualize it. Well, it's absolutely true. But boy, that's just saying, that's just one of the ways I can use this piece of equipment. So this is one of the world's greatest science, and he got there from studying science and paying attention to discovering the equipment. There's another guy here that many of you will have heard of, and his name's Oswald Chambers. Now, we celebrated, a lot of us celebrated this week. Oswald Chambers' famous statement, because it showed up February the 11th. It's in his book, My Utmost for His Highest. And people, it's My Utmost for His Highest is the number one, if it's not, maybe number two, most translated English book ever written. Pilgrim's Progress may be ahead. I'm not talking about scripture because that's not English. That was Hebrew. But they've studied and studied and studied. Millions and millions and millions have read Oswald Chambers, minister on top of minister on top of minister, quoted from him. And as far as I know, they've all ignored what he said. Because this is what he said on February the 11th. He said, the imagination is the greatest gift God's given us. The imagination, your image maker, is the greatest gift that God has given you. You have been created for genius, but it's sitting over here in a cage locked up because the oxen in the world are threatened by that lion. Don't want that lion roaring. Okay? So how many chairs are there in Bible colleges, Christian colleges, PhDs on the imagination? How many books have been written on the imagination? Here's a man that says, this is the answer to my spiritual insight. I've asked scores and scores of ministers. Have you ever read Oswald Chambers? How did he, the man died at 42. How did he get such deep insight so young? And he told us. The verse that he quotes from is Isaiah 26:3. And it goes this way. Thou wilt keep him in perfect peace whose image maker is fixed on thee. He used the word imagination. We're going to see just a minute the problem with that, okay? But he used the word imagination. Now let me tell you why. Because he quoted from the RSV translation of the Hebrew scriptures, because it says imagination, because he knew the word was not mine. He was a world-class kind of really, really powerful organist, and he was an artist. In other words, functioning from both ways, left and right, really balanced, okay? But he said, the answer to all my insight is the imagination is more important than anything else. Image maker. When he studied and meditated on scripture, he went there, he saw what was taking place, and that changed everything. Okay, so that's who we are. That's the equipment that every single one of us have. It's incredible, the equipment that we've been given, but we've not known where it is. We've not known how to use it, but we're all going to learn. Now, we've said all that we've said because you have an important piece of equipment that as you learn to use it, and we learn to use it together, we'll understand where motivation comes from. If we were in a room and I asked this question, I already know what the answer would be. How many of you have ever been to a motivational seminar? Can I see your hands? All over the place. How many have ever read a motivational book or listened to a motivational tape? Hands up everywhere. Everywhere. And then I say, well, no, you've not. You've never heard a motivational speech. You've never read a motivational book. You've never listened to a motivational tape. I wonder why. Because motivation is 100% a function of your own heart. What I hope happens here is that we have some stimulating conversations. We plant some wonderful seeds, but none of them make any lasting change at all until you start to see something different than you were seeing when you came in here. Because motivation, passion, what he's talking about, 5 years it took to write this book that he thought that they could get it written in a couple of months, because he discovered that his best-selling book of the 100 years of the 20th century, voted the #1 book, was what? The 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. And he writes this book, after 20 years saying this is the condition of the people that show up in my seminars now, and they're in the same condition they were before I wrote my book. They're depressed, they're frustrated, they're fearful of the future. There's something wrong, and he wrote the 8th habit. And the 8th habit didn't sound remotely like what the 7 habits sold, because this calls for implementation instead of intellectual information. This is about the heart. And he didn't start the right place, so he's got a limited view, but he's got enough of a view that people say, well, wait a minute. No. That's much more than me being able to quote a slogan or something like that. Yeah, big deal. Motivation's a function of our own heart. I was doing this in a seminar in Atlanta, Georgia, and there's a man interrupted me from the audience, and he said, now, I've enjoyed some of what you said, but I really don't agree with a lot of it. I guess I'm pretty left, but I think you're really missing this. But he said, but what you just said is foolish. And I said, what do you mean? He said, well, I can motivate you. And I said, really? Tell me how you're going to do it. He said, okay, let's say I pulled up a gun and I said, give me your money or I'm going to blow your brains out. I would motivate you. I'd said, well, you would stimulate me because I would want to stay alive. But what if I said, oh, I've been waiting for you. I've had a death wish for so long. Take me out. It's what the condition of my heart is that establishes motivation. What do I see? Not what you think I see. What do I really, really see? Yeah, it's a wonderful, wonderful place. I guess let's take a potty break, get a drink break, about 10 minutes, and we will come back. We're just scratching the surface now. Rediscovery the heart, we've got hours and hours and hours and hours and hours and hours and hours. So this is just trying to get enough taste that we can see that we really are going somewhere. And what the eyes of our heart have to be really engaged for us to really get to where we want to get to create a movement that's based off passion. It's based off the wonder of what this is, but this is our tool. Our heart is the means by which we get there. That's where we get a movement, a real movement, okay? So let's see, maybe during this 10-minute period of time, let's see, what time is it? Let's, yeah.
It's almost half the hour.
Yeah, let's come back at like 25 till, something like that. And if you want to type in questions, we're not raising hands and taking questions, but if you want to type in questions or make comments, this would be a place to do it. And we'll try to scan them and see before we come back. Got a lot of ground to cover.
Use the Q&A icon on the bottom of your screen that you can type in your questions, and then we'll see what we can handle later on. Okay, it doesn't mean that we will stop and go for the questions, because we want to cover the things that we want to cover, but that is what you can do. Comments or questions. Thanks. We will be back in about 5 or 10 minutes.
You don't have to. There will be people that make them some money, do some good with people, getting bands out. We're going to cover material this afternoon about where leading edge thinkers are, and leading edge thinkers are not ever thinking at the surface level. So we want as many of us to become quantum leaders, and quantum leaders have to think with a 21st century mindset, which is unlocking the right and tapping into using it. So we understand. It's the reason I said it the first. This is, if we're not saying stuff you've never heard before, we shouldn't even be here. There's no reason for be here to say the same old thing. But I've said this to PhDs. I've said this to best-selling authors. Why should you pay me money and for me to tell you what you already know? So that's a huge part of what we're all about here, is that there is a genius that's sitting in every single one of us. It got stymied. You were learning at warp speed until 2 years old. None of us has learned like we did it from zero conception to 2 years old. But the minute that we started really learning words, we slowed down because the adults in our life were really focused now on, oh, Thea understands words. She's in our world. Okay, so forget the world she was in, which is what world is every single a huge teacher that taught about mind mapping, Tony Bazant. He goes around the world with this thing. What is the fundamental language? What's the language that you know most? What was the first language? That's the way you ask it. What's the first language you learned? What's your basic language? And no matter where he is, if he's with Thea when she was growing up, she would have said Dutch. Okay, wherever you are, what's your fun? He said, no, that's not right. No matter what country you grew up in, your first language is images. And he wrote mind mapping to teach people how to make that change. Now, I had one other from Gail saying, I heard about your material. I tried to share with my son your material, but he was too old for that material. It's not true. How can you get it? It's not true. There's nobody that can't start to learn from the heart. Zero. Nobody. But you have to practice realizing that you can close your eyes and see. If I said to everybody here right now, I often start this way. Close your eyes, and if I say, can you see your mother, raise your hand. Can you see the front door of your house, raise your hand. Can you see your automobile, raise your hand. Well, those are the images inside your heart, because my mom that I can see that raised me, she's been gone for 6 years, but I can see her. When do you want me to see her? You want me to see her at 30? You want me to see her at 50? You want me to see her at 80? You want me to see her at almost 106? When do you want me to see her? Because I've got those images. I've got them. What we don't realize that we live 100% based on the images in our heart, not 50, 100% on the basis of the image of the heart. I didn't say that. Solomon said it. Watch over your heart with all carefulness, diligence, for from your heart comes all the issues of life. All of them are heart issues. Big deal. So I have had more than one person that I'd say this to. Close your eyes and see if you can see this. No, I can't see it. Okay, look again. Can you see this? No, I can't see it. T-I-B-A-H. What's T-I-B-A-H? It's a word that doesn't exist. How can I spell a word that doesn't exist? A genius can spell a word that don't exist. I drive down the highway doing that, teaching my grandkids how to do that. Look at a sign, close your eyes, spell it backwards. You can't spell it backwards unless you've taken a picture of it. Now, I can't get into learning how to learn at the speed of light, but I can tell you, you can't learn at the speed of light until you're closing your eyes and see them with the image maker. Once you get used to do that, you can discover you can use your image maker. Thea and I had a little exchange 5 or 6 years ago, before my mom did die. And I was listening to a recording of the book of Revelation. And all of a sudden, I recognized that I could see every single word instantly. Never done that before in my life, but I've been practicing with my image maker that I could instantly see the word. Instantly. So I came to Thea and said, I want to read something to you and tell me if you can see the word. Well, it's the first time she'd ever done it. But the minute I started reading, she said, yeah, I can see it. And she sees them better than me. See, when I say how to spell something, she can see it. I can't get still enough to see. I'm still way too oxy, okay? But she's really learned how to tap into that genius. She sees really, really well, okay? You close your eyes and see. You don't even, once you get used to doing that, you don't even have to close your eyes. You can just see. It's on the image maker. Yeah. We would think, well, no, it's because she just remembers how to do it. No, you don't remember how to do it. You see, and you may think you're remembering. But this is a big deal about seeing. Okay.
It is Larry, like right now where you're talking, it is like I'm just projecting every word that you say on the screen and I can see them. It's kind of, I'm reading them, and everybody can do it. Everybody can do it.
Now, let me tell you why this is so critical. And we're going to go into we're going to get into why people do what we do. This has all been preparation. And this is hours. We don't have hours. So, but we'll get some more territory covered that is going to turn you into the capacity of a person that can become a quantum leader in the 21st century. You can find your voice as your voice starts to come from the passion that's in your heart because of what you see. A vision, by its very nature, a vision is something that can't be seen with these eyes. You don't have a vision of this glass. You see the glass. Okay? It's not a vision. Who hopes for what he sees? Nobody hopes for what he sees because we hope for what we do not see. Okay? So a person that lives by vision absolutely is living by what they see on the inside with the eyes of the heart that they believe exists, that enables them to accomplish. And it's not the secret. I promise you, it's not the secret. Oh, if you just imagine it, it'll happen. That's bogus as it can be. The people that spent the millions on the secret found out it was just another door inside the house that has us locked up, and it sounded like a great door that's going to change our lives. Nothing changes your life until your heart changes. Nothing changes your life until your heart changes. Nothing changes mine until my heart changes. And if I don't know what it is, and I don't know where it is, and I don't know what language it speaks, then wow. Okay. So this is really, really, really critical ground, and but it's absolutely wonderful, and we're all extremely capable of it. I have a granddaughter that made nothing but A's, nothing. I was taking her for a practice once, and I'd never had her in the car to do this with her, and I started teaching her how to see with the eyes of her heart. We were driving by signs, and I said, Liliana, look, close your eyes and tell me if you can see what that sign says. She started doing it. I said, okay, the next sign we come to, close your eyes. Do you see it? Yes, spell it backwards. The only thing that proves that you're really seeing it is if you can spell it backwards. You can spell it backwards if you can see it. You can't spell it backwards if you thought you saw it. It's not possible because you're spelling something that doesn't exist. That incredible singer, she was in recording studios, and she came to me at Christmas. She and another grandson, the reason I wrote the book on sin, learning at the speed of light. She said, Papa, let me tell you what happened to me. I had the biggest language test, 400 words, Spanish 3, that I was being tested on. I'd been in a recording studio till 1 o'clock in the morning. I got the test the next morning, and I need to study. And I decided I'm going to do what Papa taught me. So she went through the 400 with her eyes closed. Look, close her eyes. Aced the test the next day. And then she said to me at Christmas, why don't you write a book telling everybody else what you've taught us? That's an A student. She didn't go from D's to A's. She went to better A's quicker. So she went through in an hour's time what she expected to have to spend all night doing. But this is the way geniuses are. Geniuses see what others can't see. That is what a genius is, the capacity to see what cannot be seen. That's what we're doing. We got people that are here right now that are part of what we're doing here that are already seeing what they don't see, but they see it in here. And because they see it, they're saying, I've never been so excited in my life. I mean, I see what can be done. They've got a vision. They wake up in the morning motivated. Any person that wakes up in the morning is not motivated because they went to sleep with bad images. They don't have good images when they wake up. And so how can you be excited about the day if you have nothing but negative images on the heart? If you don't know that you can change those images, then you're controlled by them. It's that simple. It's that simple. So let me bring you back in. And we're going to pick up. Are you here, Thea?
Yep.
Okay. All right. So here's an amazing insight right here. This one right here. The ox's view of imagination has two limited uses. The word imagination is contaminated. That's the reason we use the image maker, because the image maker is describing accurately what the Hebrew word yatsar means. It doesn't mean a concept of something called imagination. It means that the piece of equipment that God gave us that enables us to see what can't be seen. Okay? So here's the ox view of imagination, two limited uses. Now, this is so amazing to me. The negative use is it's not real, just imagine. And here's the tragedy of this. The number one thing that we were taught as children about imagination is it's not real. And we were taught that because we imagine there's somebody under my bed, there's somebody outside, there's something, and mom and dad just hug us and say, honey, there's nobody there. That's just your imagination. It's not really real. Now, we get up the process a little bit older and we come to a parent, and if they're a parent that wants us to do it ourselves or begin to learn to do it ourselves, and we're asked to get a help from that parent can then say, well, honey, just use your imagination. That's verbal insanity. We live with verbal insanity. The imagination is not real, and just use it. That doesn't work. But it is true that there are things in the image maker that are not real. In fact, how many of us right now have got huge issues that we're carrying because of not real situations, but images in our heart that we accept as true? They're not true. They're lies. You're a genius, but most of you don't think you are. They didn't think she was. I don't use genius in the sense that you become arrogant. It's very humbling to recognize that you've got all this equipment, quadrillion synapses up here, more capable. You are exponentially, to the nth degree, more equipped to live on the inside than you are on the outside, with this massive storage capacity up here that we've got in these trillions and trillions of synapses, each capable of storing information. That's what they're there for. We got the equipment, folks, I promise you. But this is the negative use. It's not real. Can we use it creatively? Yes, we absolutely can. And there has been no creativity exercised ever in history that wasn't done with the image maker. Because the image maker is seeing things that are not here that could be. There's a wonderful little cartoon that I saw one time that was about, there was a cartoon that was emphasizing the man who developed the wheel, the first wheel. And the cartoon said, the man that invented the first wheel was smart. The man who invented four is a genius. Nice play, right? What good is one wheel? Well, two will get you a bicycle, right? Two will let you do a lot of things. Four will let you do a lot of other things. But that's what it's all about. So here's the image maker. This changes everything. The image maker, the right view of imagination. There's a not real, that's true. There's creative images, that's true. But all of the issues of life. How many of the issues of life? All of the issues of life are based on the images that's in your heart. So it works like this. This is where it gets tough. We are who we are in our hearts. That's who we are. So watch this. Here's an event that takes place, and the event comes roaring through it. This is only a metaphor, okay? It goes way past conscious thought, or in quote mind, and it goes to where all the pictures are stored. They're not stored down here, they're stored up here. This is just a good illustration. And it comes running through the pictures in here, and the heart instantaneously uses past images, past experiences, past smells, past tastes to determine what this event means. Your intellect does not get a vote about what this means, and it's instantaneously that you're going to react to this event if it's one that is threatening to a place in here not healed. We react out of places in the heart that's not healed. And I'm going to tell you a secret if you promise to tell everybody. The past is not past until it's healed. Did anybody hear that? I've had people say to me, you don't understand. I say, oh, I do understand. Okay, you got things in your heart. And I'm going to get nosy, okay? The solution for things that happened in the past is forgiveness. Forgiveness is enlightened self-interest. Yeah, but I was raped by an uncle. Forgiveness is the only thing that's going to fix it. You don't know what they did to me. I've had people say to me, I will never forgive my father. And he's been gone 15 years. I will never forgive him. I said, well, let me tell you what's sad about that. Your father still controls your life. What are you talking about? I'm talking about your father still controls your life. You live out of that spot, and it gets triggered by all kinds of other things out here. The interpretation on that look, that interpretation for what that person said, that interpretation triggers, and instantly the heart is back to the place of pain. It's instantly back there. It doesn't take an hour to get back there. It gets triggered instantly. And that's where we are. And so we're going to always do what we do because of what's in our heart. So let's look at this one right here. The outer man, the soul body. The outer man has got 100 million sensory receptors, the 5 senses, and how it relates to the external world. Now, every one of these are important here. This is Thea's son doing his after army out. I guess that's a Grand Canyon. Maybe that was that. Maybe I don't know. Maybe that's in Brazil. He went to a lot of incredible places and was sitting out there.
Grand Canyon.
Grand Canyon. Okay. So there he is. He's taking it all in. This is my mom that raised me, my aunt that raised me 2 years before she died, just loving on that ice cream. This is my son that's coming and my brother-in-law, and they are absolutely hilarious, and they just kick each other off. This is my granddaughter, the one that's brilliant and made nothing but A's, but you understand that there's a smelling going on here. And then here is my granddaughter with her horse, and so we got touch. We got all that going on, but we are who we are in our hearts. This is all outer stuff, the senses, yes? But here's what's really going on. We are who we are in our hearts. So you got a baseball boy over here that lost the ball game. In his mind, he's the reason the team lost. And he's got himself viewed as a loser. This one I can identify with well. This is a little girl stuck at a board with everybody watching, and she does not know what to do. That was me in the 7th grade with a reading problem in math that I stumped on, and the teacher made fun of me, and I hated math from that point on when I made nothing but A's. I understand that one well. This is, unfortunately, way too many children have experienced what it's like when their parents fight. And this is a little kid that doesn't have a friend anywhere and everybody leaves him out. That's him. All of those are programmed inside, and every single one of those are pictures of somebody that's 60 or 70 years old, but unhealed places. So, where are we? We're who we are in our hearts. Doesn't matter. Thea was not somebody that could talk in front of people. She wasn't somebody that says, well, I think I can teach some PhDs a thing or two. She wasn't somebody that said, I can talk to theologians who've been teaching the Bible for years and I can teach them. If you'd said that to her 10 years ago, she'd say, I don't know what you're talking about. Okay, that's not me. But look at this. Heart image is the sources of all the energy. So we do what we do, not based on, and I've skipped over a really powerful slide, and I apologize, because what we've got is we think that surface thoughts are what's important. We think that our emotions are important. We think our intellectual decisions are important. We think willpower is important. We think all of these things, and they're totally false. None of them are the issue. The issue of all the issues of life are interior thoughts that the intellect doesn't even know. Feelings way back there that still can be activated so fast. And the editor of all of it, there's an editing board inside the heart of every single one of us that makes the decision automatically and instantaneously about how we feel about what we just heard or what we just saw. And it takes place instantly. So here's a huge thing. These are just a few of the principles about rediscovery of the heart. What we believe in our hearts is what we really believe. I wish I could spend an hour here. What we believe in our hearts, what we really believe. It doesn't matter what you say you believe. It doesn't matter what I say I believe. This is why affirmations are so negative. Alex, after we talked about that, Alex wrote a whole section in his book of how dangerous affirmations are, because every day and every way I'm getting better and better, and your heart says that's a lie, don't believe it. Well, you keep saying it and no change takes place. Why? Because the heart's saying it's not true. So what we believe in our hearts, what we really believe. So look at this woman. She's got a problem that she can't solve. And guess where she goes instantly, and she didn't mean to go there. In fact, she doesn't know she is there. But she's saying, I'm just dumb. I can't get this. I can't handle this. But she's right back there because that place has never been healed. So why do we do what we do? Because we don't see things the way they really are. We see them the way we are. That's what happens to us. We see them the way we are. So when you start talking to people about all of this wonderful thing that's happening here, they're going to see on the basis of where they are. They're not going to see on the basis of where we are. I've said to several people just very recently, the answer is not no to what our offer is. Doesn't mean people won't say no. But who does not want protection from 5G from the people they care about? Who doesn't want to see cell rejuvenation to start immediately? Who doesn't want to have extra strength for peak performance? Who doesn't want that? Everybody wants that. But no's come from previous programming. Remember way back in the beginning, here's what we said. That when our first thoughts are not thinking at all, our first thoughts are previous programming. That will help you immensely when you just say, I'm going to keep pursuing this person because I know that they're worth pursuing, and I have just not, I'm not talking about badgering people. I'm not talking about that at all. I'm just talking about recognizing the truth. I love to say this. Somebody write this down. I said, don't write, but this is worth remembering for some of you. I love saying, I must have said something wrong because the answer is not no. You're too smart a person to be saying no to what I'm saying. It must be that I'm not saying it right. I learned that a long, long time ago, and I can say it anytime that I really believe that what I'm saying and what I have to offer is truly needed. I never say it to manipulate, but I've been able to do it with more than one occasion with people that had just said no. Then I said, wait a minute, there's something wrong. The answer is not no. So you got to give me another chance, okay? So we do what we do because we don't see things the way they are. We see things the way we are. Now, all of this is a lifetime of seeing these principles and having them work out in our lives. But the way I am over here, inside here, can you see my cursor, Thea? Yes?
Yes.
Okay. What is taking place? I don't see what's really happening. I see what my heart interprets as happening based off of what? Previous programming. And places in the heart not healed are going to interpret things negatively, whether they're true or not. Here's another one. This one literally can make relationships in your life so much better. It's not even funny if you'll practice it and realize it's true. They and I have to do this the way we work together. We just have to deal with this all the time. It's all the time. It's every situation because we get a phone call, something else comes up. Thea will be sitting right there, and I think Thea's looking at me because she's there. She doesn't even have me on the screen. She's answering somebody's question or something else like that. And I'm sitting here all by myself, but I don't think I'm by myself. Or Thea's got something to say. Wow, listen to this. And I said, well, you don't have my heart. I'm not here. We know what that means now. That don't mean we like it all the time because we still can be, some of us can be impatient. Some. We are where our hearts are. We can't possibly be anywhere else. If you get this, it can change your relationship. I've had people leave the seminars and say, you just saved our marriage. You just saved our marriage, because I can tell you the men are much more left than the women, although don't believe that women can't be left. We are where our hearts are. We can't possibly be anywhere else. Look at this cartoon. I'm listening to you, dear. You said we're going to dinner with your parents with 2 minutes to go in the half, and that I should pass the ball. Yeah, that's exactly what she said with her arms crossed. Okay, we're about to be late to the parents. Yeah, but there's 2 minutes left in the half, and I got to pass. So what is that? This one was really difficult for me. Let me tell you why. I'm telling you, I'm roaring through this material because this was always 5 and 6 hour seminars. And I would just say early that the men are going to not like this and the women are going to love it. And I've had so many women said, finally a man that gets it. And I said, well, come and ask Kim how much I get it. Okay, let's come. I can talk it better than I can walk it, but I do understand some of the issues. So let me explain it to you like this. There's something that's incredible about a woman that I still don't have figured out, but I have a partial grasp of it. Let's say that Kim's coming into the house and she's about to ask me something, and I'm sitting here, and this happened. I was reading, it's when I first started getting into this, and oh, it's happened so many times since, but now I know a little bit better how. So I'm sitting reading an article in Time magazine. I'm this far from the bottom of the article, and she comes in and says, Larry, I'm going out shopping, and I'm going to the store, and they got some things on sale, and I'd like to just get some surprise we 4 children. I'd just like to get some surprise for everybody, and I think I'll be able to get some good deals there. What do you think? Okay. She comes back 2 hours later, and I go out to help her get stuff out of the car, and I say, what's this? And she said, we talked about this. And I said, I didn't know you were talking about this. Why? Because I wasn't there when she asked. Now, on this occasion, it was about something totally different, because that happened a million times. She comes in and she starts to ask me something, and I'm almost near the end of the article. And I said, she started talking. I said, would you like to have my heart? And you can't imagine how she's sweet as she can be, I promise you, but she can say, of course, in a way that lets you know the sweetness is really, really being tested. And I said, okay, just give me a second. Okay, I'm here. What was about to happen was a million times. So what is it about a woman that you can say, I'm listening, and be looking to her right in the eye, and the woman says, you're not listening, and I'm looking right at her? What is it? Because when she says, you're not listening to me, I can do something amazing. And I did it for years thinking it was true. I could run to echoic memory, which lasts about 5 seconds, and I can find the last word she said, and I go grab it out of echoic memory, but not because my heart was there at all. I just go find the words. And I thought that I could repeat the words to her meant I could multitask, and I really was listening to what she was saying, in spite of the fact that my heart was somewhere else. Not true. So I can make commitment after commitment after commitment. I'll give you another illustration of this. My office is over our garage. I get here by coming through the kitchen. I can't tell you until I recognized what was happening that Kim would say to me, and I do a lot at night, that she'd say to me, honey, before you come to bed, would you take the trash out? Yes. I never said no. Never. You guess how many times when we got up the next day and she said, why didn't you take the trash out? You said you'd take the trash out. And I said, I forgot. You know why I forgot? Because when she asked if I would take it out, my heart wasn't there. I was already up here. I found a really, really, really simple way to do that. When she says, will you take the trash out when you come back? I say yes. All I have to do while I'm coming up the steps is see myself coming down the steps and going straight to the trash and pick it up. If I do that, I've never failed to pick up the trash because my heart got it, because my heart was focused for a minute on what I said, and my heart was there. So I had the image of what I'd committed to do because my heart was there. But I promise you that I can still, depending on the intensity of what's going on, I still can say yes and not be there. So this is really critical. We are where our hearts are, and you can't possibly be somewhere else. That's where we really are. Okay, let me show you another one that is huge. Big deal. Our hearts make decisions automatically and instantaneously, even over a rubber snake. I illustrate this way. By the way, Thea asked me to please make this image smaller because of her own experience with a not rubber snake. Okay. If we understand this, it makes huge. So I did a seminar once from the veranda of a country club in Scottsdale, Arizona. And that golf course had more snakes on it than any other golf course in Arizona. So many rattlesnakes that they ask you not to go after your ball if it left the fairway. Just drop from where you went in because there's too many snakes in here. Never saw a snake the whole time. Played the whole course, never saw a snake. But I didn't go where the snakes were, and it was warm, and they weren't out crawling across the grass. They've been in snaky places. And so I use this illustration. Let's say we're all sitting there on a veranda, and all of a sudden I look down, and right beside your chair is a big rattlesnake. And I automatically, instantaneously say, John, look out. And you look and you see a snake, and you're out of here. You turn tables over, you knock people every which way. You're out of here. It's a rubber snake. Why do you think that happens? Because your heart does not see a rubber snake. There's no time for evaluation. Your heart sees a real snake. And your heart responds automatically and instantaneously to what it perceives to be real, even if it's not. Now, what if there was a bunch of roses? And I say, look out. At your feet, look out. And you turn and look, and there's a bunch of roses. Are you going to go in orbit? No, because your life's not threatened by a bunch of roses. So what are we talking about when we're talking about what right brain is all about and about all these issues of life that we've talked about here? All of them. Well, it's right here. The right brain sees three-dimensional movies, 360-degree surround sound action that can touch all the history of our lives as current events at the speed of light. Bam, it's done. And we're there. So the heart's the source of intuitive wisdom. It's reach and feeling that's often too deep for words. This is just amazing what this is all about and all the doors that it really opens up to us. What we can see, what we can believe, what takes place. And it takes place at the speed of light. Now, when you hear this, when you see this, when you understand what we're talking about here, then slowly but surely you're going to understand that when we talk about this, that we're really talking about it at a level that's deeper than just the intellectual level of what's taking place here. There's a vision that comes out of what can take place about this, but the vision, I can see it. I can describe it. We're going to get into some of those aspects of it, but it can only be seen with the image maker. You can't see a vision with anything that's in the room. You can't see a vision measurable by the senses. You can't see it. They don't exist at that level, or it's not a vision. But we've been told very, very clearly that without vision, there is no restraint, there's no borders, there's no, a vision determines how I spend my time. At this point, 186 people found their way in here because they said, there is something that is going on that is setting the boundaries of my time on Saturday. I'm not sure, but it still is intriguing enough that I'm coming. It set boundaries. There's other things you could be doing, but you said, wait a minute. No, there's something going on here that is worthy of my time. So the beautiful thing about vision is it not only sets the direction of our life, but it sets boundaries on how we spend our time, what we think is important. What we think is important. That's the flow of what takes place out of vision. And ancient Hebrew makes it very clear. And by the way, a vision, if it's authentic, is not something you made up. It's not a dream that you came up with. A vision, to be biblically sound, is a revelation that you've been blessed to be exposed to. But it's not your daydream. It's not, oh, I'm going to envision myself in a Cadillac. Okay. That's not vision. That's wishful thinking, but it's not vision. Okay. And so this is a really, really critical part of what we're all about here. So I'm going to come out here for just a minute. Could we go? Would you get up, just because it's such a good illustration, would you get up out of the movies, saving Mr. Banks? Could you do that, please?
Yes, I'm
Okay.
on my way.
Okay, good. For those of you that don't think this is important, I'm sorry. It's the most important thing in your life. There's nothing, if the image maker controls everything we do, there's nothing more important in our life than discovering how to use it. Watch this.
Why are you concentrating so hard on?
I'm laying eggs.
Really? Fabulous.
Today, I'm a hen.
Indeed. I can see the feathers sprouting as we speak.
Helen Goff, will you lay the table for supper, please?
I'm not Helen.
She can't possibly lay the table. She's busy laying eggs.
Helen, will you lay the table for supper, please?
She's laying! Sorry. Kitty. Don't you ever stop dreaming, Kinty, my love. You can be anyone you want to be.
Anyone? I want to be just like you.
Don't.
Is that it? Did it stop there? Wow. Well, let me tell you what that's about. It's about the lady that wrote Mary Poppins. And she wrote it, and Walt Disney wanted to do it. It took him 20 years. I'd suggest you try to get that movie and watch it, because everything about that movie was fearful that her banker in that movie would not be treated right, and it's really her father, who was a drunkard and died. and was an embarrassment to her and the family, but she's trying to save him. And she could not turn loose to Walt Disney to see how he was going to handle her father. Great movie, Mary Poppins. Mary Poppins, best-selling book. She wouldn't turn it loose. She wouldn't turn it loose. She wouldn't turn it loose. But the whole of that book was about her father, and Walt Disney finally got it. And he took her on a walk, and he took her into Disney World, and he showed her Disney World and said, I almost didn't get here because of the way my father treated me when I was a boy and called me in the cold to deliver newspapers. And he was mean and tough. And I had to get free of that. So that's what life's about. The images in our heart, until they're healed, they're not healed, and they control us. And we don't even recognize it. We would even deny what we do. So psychology has such a huge failure rate because it's sukeology that never gets anything changed. It can tie you to a psychologist or an analyst, but that's just to come in and keep talking. It doesn't bring change. If your heart changes, you don't need that. You don't need that at all. Your heart gets changed. You get free. But the failure view that so many have is just wrong. It's just wrong. One of the books that we will look at another time is Reese and Trout, who wrote Positioning. It's called Horse Sense. And what they're saying is how important it is in this age that you have horse sense. But the point that they make is you don't have to be the one who sees the vision that is the horse. You just have to recognize the vision when it's here and ride it. So that's our place. Mike had a wonderful, wonderful vision. Okay. That vision is now starting to really come to pass, where we've got a vehicle and we've got you and the millions that are in front of us to say, who doesn't need this? Okay. It's the reason we moved all the booby traps. We don't have to say you got to buy one every month. You got to sell one every month. We don't have to have any of those booby traps because customers are going to be everywhere. Everywhere. But it's a vision, a passion inside that kept him going for 11 years. It's absolutely back to Einstein. Saw something, took him 14 years to be able to have the math so that other people could get what he saw when he tried to use the words. This is a huge thing for us. I'll say this over and over to me. We're not looking for the right people. We're looking for the right words. Charlie gave us some right words when we're talking to people that know marketing. One and done and no monthly payments, no auto ship. One and done, no auto ship. Powerful words. We're not looking for the right people. We're looking for the right words, because the right words can carry a vision and touch a heart. Wrong words are just blah, 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 blah. Just a bunch of words, but blah, 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 mean nothing. They don't take us anywhere. Words that create, that are powerful, that create images. That's something else. That's what we look for. That's what our whole thing to do together is. So, I'm really disappointed that there wasn't more to that video thing. I thought there was going to be more. Let's see if there's I know where I want to go next, but I'd like to know if there's anybody with questions here that has to do with what we're talking about here. Please don't put in questions that don't have anything to do with what we're talking about. Okay. I've got, I'm going to get a presentation up that will, I hope, blow you away. But I've got to go another place to get it. Okay. There, can you just check, see about question right fast?
Darlene had a comment. It says, so many times I've told others I have a file in my mind that goes to that place and gets the facts. I knew. This is what you're saying, right?
Well, the genius is on the inside, and the genius has got every single experience we've ever had in our life and every single piece of information. So you can go to bed and you can wake up the next day with the solution, because the heart never sleeps. To say subconscious or unconscious is totally bogus. It means I don't understand what the heart is, because the heart never sleeps and it's never unconscious. It's totally conscious at all time. When we say unconscious, God designed us so that our conscious thought can't be handling all that information at one time, but the heart says I can. So give me the problem, go to sleep, wake up, you may find out the answer is already there. So that can be really, really, really powerful. Let me go.
Well, you Hunt, let me share the Lasim Lev.
Sure.
This is very early, and I just discovered the Rediscovery of the Heart, and I'm watching the online presentations Larry is doing. And one day, my husband is getting ready to go to the airport. And while he is getting ready, he has this habit of when he doesn't find something, he's just asking out loud, where is my, I usually take that as I need to answer that, or I need to get up. You know, it's kind of, he's asking me. Well, actually, he's more thinking out loud. He's asking, where is my cell phone? I say to him, your cell phone is on the ironing board. He goes there, he picks up his cell phone, and he says, how did you know it was there? Because I wasn't there in the same room. How did you know it was there? And then I said to him, I don't know, I just paid attention. And the moment that I said that, since I'm speaking Hebrew, all of a sudden I catch what I just said. In Hebrew, we don't say we pay attention. In Hebrew, say, I put my heart to it. And at that moment, I understood exactly what happened, because when he asked me, where is my cell phone? I saw a picture of his cell phone lying on the ironing board where I had last seen it. When I was coming out of the bathroom, when I was passing through that, I had seen that cell phone. Now, my heart took a picture of the cell phone and put it in the heart to store it. The moment that he asked, where is my cell phone? My heart gave the image. It was triggered. It gave it to me. I saw it with the eyes of my heart, not with these eyes anymore, because I wasn't in the same room. And I said, there it is. So the moment that I got that, I said I had put my heart to it, it said, oh my goodness, this is what Larry is talking about. This is what Larry is talking about. These eyes saw it. The heart stored it. Yeah. My husband triggered with his picture, with his question. My heart gave me the image. And I could say, there it is.
And guess what? When Udi laid his cell phone down, where was Udi? Who knows? But he wasn't there.
Not there.
Okay. So how many times have I said to Kim, where's my keys? And she loves to say, not, they are sweet. Kim loves to say, well, where did you leave them? For Kim, at this stage, everything's a teaching moment. Okay. Can I get this man trained before we get out of here? Okay. That's okay. But, and so Thea taught me that morning. Lasim Lev. My heart was there. I put my heart there. Incredible. Okay. Before we take another.
Can I add there one little illustration?
Yeah.
I have a habit of, before I go on a plane trip, that there are certain things that I put safe, like my wallet that I don't take with me, or the keys of my car, whatever. And sometimes not just in the regular place, but in a not so obvious place. If I know that I'm leaving my home for a couple of days and no one is there. So that's what I've done. And then I come back home after a couple of days and I don't remember where I put it. And now I have to start looking at all places where I put that, because I wasn't really there when I put it. I was already on the plane. Last time I did it, I was talking to Larry. I said, you know, this happened, so I'm going to do it now. And let me take a clear picture of where I'm putting this. I'm taking the time. It just takes a second. It doesn't take more. I sit down. I took a clear picture of where I put it. No problem finding it. My heart knew.
That's why this is so life-changing. We don't recognize how much we don't live in the now, or we don't realize that we are where our hearts are and we can't be anyplace else. It's just not possible. We are there or we're not there. That's the deal. I want to show you two things right quick. These are staggering to me. I planted a seed with you, some of you last night. But I want to tell you about this incredible, hold on. I saved it and yeah. Going to bring you back in. So Thea, stay with me to make sure it's showing up. You see my screen?
Not yet.
Uh-oh. Okay.
So Grace is asking, I'm not understanding how all this fits into what we're doing with the bands. How are we going to explain this?
We'll do that after this session.
Yes. This is all preparation.
For some reason, I'm not being able to get where I want to get there.
Which is?
I can't see the controls. Now I can. Okay. Now you tell me if you can see. Yes?
Yes, sir.
Okay, good.
Oh, this is going to be good. This
is mind-boggling good. And it kind of answers the question. And not to pick on Grace, but if all of life has to do with the heart. All of life. Everything about what is here has to do with heart. How big a group you have, how successful you have, how you interrelate with people has to do with understanding their heart and understanding your heart, or you're just going to talk about product and get as much as you can. You'll create no vision for yourself or anybody else, and you'll have minimum success instead of maximum. You can't operate out of peak performance without vision. You can't operate out of vision unless you're seeing what can't be seen. You cannot see what can't be seen until you see what can't be seen. So everything about this is about how we do this. Everything. So let me show you what is staggering. I want to show you what kind of potential you have. Not just you, everybody you know. And I touched on it last night, but I didn't explain it. This is a medical miracle. You see my screen?
Yes.
Paralyzed lions demonstrating a medical miracle. We'll go back and review that, but let me show you how this started. It started with an experiment. And the experiment was with a rhesus monkey. Are you seeing my stop share and all that? There's not.
I just see the slide.
Okay, good. Thank you. This was an experiment that was done in Duke University. This is a rhesus monkey. I'll just add a female rhesus monkey. They taught a rhesus monkey how to stand on a treadmill, how to start walking on the treadmill, and how to stop walking when the treadmill stops. They're programming the rhesus monkey's synapses in the brain to be able to learn how to do this. And it takes about a day or day and a half to get the monkey really trained, and they give reward and all that. So the monkey's doing it. Okay, so that's a starting point. There's 250 neuron images that are firing the brain waves. 250. We've got a quadrillion neuron image capacity, storage capacities. This is 250. They're firing the images that drive the legs. 250 images in the brain. Now they get this incredible experiment. They hook up by a speed computer with a robot in Kyoto, Japan, 7,000 miles away. They got a robot and they connect the robot up to what's firing in the brain of the monkey, and the robot starts walking on the basis of what the monkey is doing walking. Instantaneously, they can have the robot start to walk off of what? The neural images that are in the brain of the rhesus monkey, and the rhesus monkey has no idea the robot exists. And for sure, the robot doesn't know the rhesus monkey exists. Now watch what happens next. The same signals are driving both sets of legs. But then they get this wonderful idea, and they put this image of the robot on a screen in front of the rhesus monkey. When that happens, it takes just a short period of time before the rhesus monkey comes to the brilliant conclusion that the rhesus monkey has bonded some way with whatever that is, and the rhesus monkey is making that robot walk. So then they do this. As that happens, then they do this. The treadmill stops, the monkey stops, but the monkey with its image maker keeps the robot walking. 250 images, and the rhesus monkey has got it figured out that with my thoughts, I'm making that whatever it is walk. And when the signal stops on, and this is just mind-boggling, folks. A rhesus monkey, can you do this? Can I do this? I don't even have the words to communicate how huge this is. So I'm going to go get another set of slides here to take you to the next step, because the next step is just off the chart. The researchers who are doing this suddenly get a bright idea.
Let's emphasize it that it is the brain waves coming from the images in the monkey's head that are driving the legs to walk. And the same images are driving the robot's legs to walk.
Yes.
One image, one signal, two sets of legs, 7,000 miles apart.
Yep.
One image.
It's mind-boggling. I'm getting the other slides there. Give me just a minute.
Mm-hmm.
You can keep talking about that if you want, because you know where we're going.
I know where we're going. And this is so important to get, that everything we do comes out of the images in the heart that are driving our legs or heart or hands, or everything we do is coming out of the images that we have. There is no image. Can do it.
Okay, I'm ready.
Okay.
Again, let me know if this is showing up.
Mm-hmm.
You see?
Yes.
Okay.
For me to reach out to my glass, I need to have a picture of a glass of my hand, and that I can do it. I can reach out with my hand and grab the glass.
There you go. Okay. The ox is on the left, the lion's on the right, the heart of the wise is to the right, the heart of the fools to the left. We've been trained left brain. Our schools, our churches, our institutions trained us to be left. So this is where we're all about it. This announcement was made on August 19th, 2016. It's about this paraplegics. So they got this bright idea. And the bright idea was based off of this realization. Hold on. I'm trying to, since I've shown you some others, I need to go forward. We're here. This is about paraplegics. Can you imagine being a paraplegic and being told you're never going to walk again? Well, this is the first time recorded that a paraplegic used his brain waves to walk in a computerized exoskeleton. They've made a lot of improvement on this, and there's more ahead. But this man is causing this computer model that he's wearing, just like the robot, and he is walking with brain waves. But here's the big deal. When they started doing the research, because of what they saw the rhesus monkey do, they said, well, we showed the rhesus monkey an image, and the image was, well, of a robot walking, and the monkey formed those images of the robot walking, and because it could make the connection so that it could continue to make the robot walk. So this is a huge, and this has to do with every single one of us that do not live by vision. When we looked at the brains of these patients, paraplegics, we could not detect any signal. When we asked them to imagine walking, the brain maps had disappeared. So this is how we learn to walk. This is exactly what Damasio said. That's impossible. We have to have a thought and an image, and that everything we do is based on images. And he goes in great detail of all of the ways that images are stored on the inside, so that everything other than the basic, I'm going to suck and go to the bathroom, but every single thing that has to be learned with sight and smell and sound and walking, everything has to be learned and stored into images, digital images, before we can function. And so now they get here, and they discovered an amazing thing about these folks. There's no question but what paraplegics are dead from the waist down. They are. But here's the big discovery. Paraplegics are not only dead from the waist down, they're brain dead as well. Meaning what? They have no images of walking left in the brain. When the function disappeared, the images that were actually essential disappeared as well. So paraplegics are brain dead for walking. The heart's digital image maker must fire signals from the internal digital mount before our external limbs can move. It's what Thea just said. She wants to get a glass of water, she reaches for it. She reaches for it because there's images in there that connect water, her need for water, and what she has to do to get it, and that's how we function in life. That has to happen before the external can move. So what happened when that discovery was made, it came through neuroimaging, and you've already heard Mike talk about the different kinds of things that have been tested to show what's happened with the frequencies. Well, this is just part of what this world's all about. So watch this. Neuroprogramming discovered that paraplegics have no walking images. They're gone. So where there used to be maps for it, there's no software left. The images are gone. But they got here. And they got here because they used virtual reality machines. And they had this wonderful thing happen right here. They had 156 people that dropped their projects, dropped the patents that they're working on. This was such a huge thing that 156 people from 25 countries and 5 continents committed 18 months of their life to amaze the world, and the world still doesn't know it happened. And this was the result. The first kick in 2014 of the World Cup soccer kick was not a single one of the soccer players made. It was a paraplegic that made the opening kick with images on the inside driving his paraplegic legs. And this is the way they program them. Visual images. They had visual images of what? Virtual reality, not reality. It's computer-generated environment experienced as real. But the heart takes in the images and views them as real unless you say, wait a minute, this is not real. The heart's going to believe whatever stays focused on the screen. It's going to. So you need to know how to take a thought captive. You need to know where this thought came from and not think it came from you. The big thing in my life is discover I'm not responsible for the thoughts I have. I'm responsible for the thoughts I keep. That's a whole nother world, folks. So right here, watch this. This is what they did with the paraplegics. The virtual headsets gave them avatar legs, which they made walk with their image maker. Their own images had to see these feet in this avatar walking, but when that happened, they're starting to reprogram the lost images in their brain. And everything I'm saying is about me and you and what it's like when you don't have any images of success. You don't have any images of how you participate in a global marketing bonanza. You don't have any images. You're still thinking about, well, who do I know that can buy a band? Well, you can do that 100% based off old programming and thinking in terms of the real business success. Never think in terms of product, but the entire system that's around product. McDonald's business is not hamburgers. Their system is what they sell. People pay big bucks for franchises where somebody say, here's a system that works. But business failures think the success of a business depends on a product, and business success is big time. Think in terms of the whole system that works, that other people can be plugged into the system. So this is what happens. When that takes place, The image maker creates new walking brainwaves, but they're not real. No, the heart takes them as real. And so look what happened. After 2 hours per week, only 8 hours per month, this is what happened. They use electrical signals from the recreated brain waves to move the external exoskeleton. And watch this. I mean, this drives me up the wall. 6 months later, after only 48 hours of VR training, something totally unexpected happened. The new brain waves were starting to impact the physical body below the waist. Look at this. This is somebody that's paraplegic. 6 months after doing a limited amount of time with virtual reality to restore the images, this person, look where their hand is in relationship to where it was. And this person, we're not doing it by film, but you can watch the film and see how much this lady is being able to move her leg. Some of these folks even took steps without the exoskeletons. These new brain waves were even restoring some bowel and bladder control. Now, this is prima facie evidence at first sight, proven fact of the image maker's significance. So everything we do, everything is based on the images in our heart. Every single thing. It's a big deal. Now let me come back. It all started with a rhesus monkey and 250 neurons firing. 250. You and I have got a zillion, a quadrillion. I think we've got the equipment. We've just not been taught to use it. We were using it at warp speed when we were babies. Absolute warp speed. We learned on the basis of what we were seeing and what we were feeling. We were not learning on the basis of intellectual, conceptual information. We were not learning on the basis of abstract. We were learning on the basis of experiential, and the heart was fully engaged. And then we started to speak. And what was meant to cause us to be able to excel with all of that, in fact, started to repress what was the creative side, the brilliant side, with a focus on, oh, how we got a smart little kid. They're learning even more words. They're learning even more words. And the fact is that most of us from 2 to 5 vegetated. Because what are the parents waiting on? There's some that are different, but what are most parents waiting on? Well, let's just enjoy life, because before long, Thea's going to go to school. And when she goes to school, they'll start teaching her. The gentle revolution that we talked about, well, we've not. We'll do that another time. The gentle revolution is off the chart. It's how to teach your baby math, how to teach your baby encyclopedia of knowledge, how to teach your baby to read. It's the picture that I showed you where baby says that's 40 because they know 40 realities. That's a baby being taught to do mathematical problems like you and I can't do them because we weren't programmed that way up here where the genius is. We were taught substitutions and symbols instead of realities. We were taught mid-bar instead of the bar. Okay, that's what we were taught. Abstract substitutions. I got the definitions. I know I'm not in the wilderness. Let me tell you what it means to be transformed. Well, the only real transformation is not the words that come out of our mouth. The only real transformation is what takes place in our heart. It's the only one. And the sad thing is we can learn the vocabulary of transformation and not be transformed at all. In fact, we've got some hilarious material in this Rediscovery of Heart material. And of course, this material is just loaded stuff we've been doing over 10 years. But anyway, you're getting a little bit of touch of what this part's all about. Let's see, what's our time? Yeah, let's go to 12 and take another 10-minute break. And then I'm gonna go pull all of these business leaders and let you know what they're saying. And Thea, can we get those? What do we decide we can do about the?
Yes. I did, when you got a reminder for this webinar, there was also a link in it. That a link to a handout that we created. There was just no other way that we could get it to you. So if you go back into your email, the reminder for this webinar with the link, with the access link, there's also a link for the handout that you can open up. And I am going to try something else to do. Let me see if you can see here. I'm going to put in here this link. Let me know. Raise your hand if you can see the link that I just posted in here in the chat box. Don't start chatting, just raise your hand. The link is posted there. Okay, very, very good. You can click on that link and download it.
So we're going to take a minute to do this. I'm going to take a quick break, and we'll try our best to get through this by 1, like we said. The wonderful thing, if you're home, is you could get yourself a sandwich or whatever you need, and get right back in front of the computer, and we'll be going at it again.
And I'm going to play another song in the meantime.
I was going to ask you to do something else.
Okay.
Would you play the Trophic Cascade?
The Trophic Cascade, sure.
We've shown this once or twice, but you got to understand how important it is of how life changes when we bring the fractal into play, just to start to make a small change, because the questions are here. I know what the questions are. How do I get free from this thing in the past? How do I get to, those are issues that we don't have time. This is a process. I mean, we're dealing with this now, and that's what the fullness of Rediscovery of the Heart is about. But learning that we absolutely are controlled by images. We're controlled by images. The point is, can we get to the place that we can make sure that the images that are controlling us are not the negative ones out of the past, that we're free from them so that we can choose the images. We're a huge issue here, and we've got we've got hundreds of slides, folks, so this is really difficult to say, what are we going to share, okay? But this is a big question for you to ask, for me to ask, is who wrote the script for our lives? The woman that wrote Mary Poppins, her drunk father wrote the screen from our lives, and she finally got free. But it took her years, okay? Who wrote the screen of our lives? It's been written, they're there. And we're walking out, most of us are walking out scripts we didn't choose. It's just kind of, we just say, well, it's just the way life happened. Well, I believe that there is a place that is on the Father's chart of what he wants us to be a part of and what he wants us to do. And the big key to life is, can we find that? If we don't, then we're going to find out that we missed our purpose for being created in the first place. Don't want that for me, and I don't want that for you. Okay. So I'm going to need help from you, but can you play that, please? And I'll get to another thing.
Yes.
I need to do. Thank you.
Yeah. And some set the link.
Done here is we have shown you how to get to the source. The source is from ancient Hebrew. You can't have a better source. And so what we've talked about is the lying genius that's been locked up. And it's been locked up for centuries. Another time we'll go how far back. Got locked up a long time ago. But that the image maker is the right view of imagination. And I'm telling you, as you start to change your vocabulary and use the word image maker, there's a day that lights up for you as a huge revelation in and of itself. That word, when it becomes experiential for you, you know that you're talking about the greatest gift that you've been given of your whole equipment is your image maker. That images of the heart, known or unknown images, control everything we do. And this is the latest brain science that's here. But the gift on the right's been there all the time. But when did the Father start saying, okay, it's time to start bringing this forth and let's get some recovery going? And the business world, the cutting edge of the business world is on this big time, but not as much as they think. They're still into predominantly what Deming call the symbols, masquerading as the reality. But it began being fleshed out when Roger Sperry won the Nobel Prize with saying the left brain and the right brain are not identical twins. We got Rediscovery the Heart. We got some incredible films and things that illustrate this. But in 2003, Tom Peters wrote a huge bestseller. He's considered a huge business consultant, thinker. These are all thinkers, okay? But you're a thinker. These people just been trained to think, and they write books, and they tell us how to think or what they saw when they were thinking. And many, many times, as I said, we just take in the information and said, yeah, that was a good book. Well, how did it change your life? Well, it didn't. Then you wasted your time reading it. There's no need to read a book if it's got life in it and we don't implement it. So the right equipment was written where he's saying, in order to succeed in the future, you have to reimagine your whole way of doing it. All he's talking about is we got to look at it completely different than the way we've looked at it before in the past. We have to. Can't survive unless we do. Okay, so that's huge, bestseller. The Eighth Habit, we've already talked about it. The Eighth Habit was written in 2004 by the #1 business writer of the 20th century, Stephen Covey, and it's his crowning work. And his whole point was, and he says, it's not that the Eighth Habit is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. It's that we left out 8. We didn't know about 8, and 8 is the heart, and the heart is what is behind all 7 in order for 7 to work. And it's his explanation of why people that have paid him $6,000 to spend a week with him, or gone to his seminars that were less, or read his books, or had his calendars, lives didn't change. And he says, oops, we left out something really important, and it took us 5 years to write it, and we thought we could get it written in 3 or 4 months, and then we thought it could get written in a year. Well, he's restarting to rediscover. He didn't get far enough back, but he did get to the place saying, this is a heart issue, okay? The right power, as somebody said it just a few minutes ago, is by Malcolm Gladwell, and that was in 2005, and he calls it the power to think without thinking, saying that intuitive wisdom gives us our best answers in the blink of an eye. This is a confession, but it meant for years that I had zero respect for Kim saying to me, this doesn't feel right. None. I said, you're a smart woman. I'll listen to you, but I got this figured out. I mean, the first time that we lost $50,000, was because I was going to become the next boy wonder. I was going to become a multimillionaire when I was 25 years old. And so I invested in a franchise. Kim said it didn't feel right. I had zero respect for that. None. Wow. After Rediscovery of the Heart, I sat down after all those years and said, can we go back and visit that one more time? Why do you think that you said it didn't feel right? And she said, because Doss could not look me in the eye. He was the wheeler dealer dealing with another wheeler dealer. He could not look her in the eye. He could look me in the eye. And she said, I guess it's because he couldn't look me in the eye. And he ended up being dishonest and a crook, and we lost the money. She said, I guess it's because he wouldn't look me in the eye. She just said in the past, this doesn't feel right. So this is huge. We didn't have time to touch on it, but the ox does not accept what the lion feels, because the ox thinks, I've got it. I've got the information. I've figured this out. And feeling has nothing to do with where the ox operates from. The ox is saying, I'm going after the money. I'm going after the gold. I'm going after the people. And the ox deals with people as just another objects on the chessboard to be moved. That's not how the lion relates to people, okay? So the eighth habit was huge. Then the power to do what? Think without thinking. And he goes into detail about people that are really trained, firemen who can say it's time to get out of here, policemen say this is dangerous, soldiers say this, make decisions automatically and instantaneously. Why? Because it's the heart that's touching the entire reservoir of information and knowledge that's been the life experience, and on the basis of that, sending a warning signal. The right conclusion was declared in 2006 by Daniel Pink. Right brainers will rule the future. So every single person here that asks me the question, what does this have to do with us selling these bands and getting as many bands out, need to get this down, because it's your left brain ox saying, what's this got to do with life? This is leading thinkers saying the right brainers are going to rule the future. Well, why? The left brainers have ruled the future, and they always resist the paradigm shifts. So these right brain pioneers are all pointing the right direction, but they don't, any of them, go far enough back. You got to go back to Hebrew and get back there where there's a lion king and there is an ox, and understand the difference between the two and rejoice that I've got an ox. I'm so glad I have an ox. My ox is the one talking to you, but I hope he's talking out of basis of what the lion sees. Hope everybody heard that. Okay, I'm coming out of here and coming back. Now, I want to talk about dimming. Just for the sake of time, I'm not going to go find those slides. There's just a lot to move around here, but I want to talk to you about dimming. Most of you have been here and know that dimming's the starting point of every single person that has to do with what man has discovered. He predates what most of the other people were doing in a significant way. So who's Deming? Deming is the man who taught Rosie the Riveter how to prepare the war materials that allowed us to fight on two fronts. I still get blown away by the data. And the data is at the end of the war that Rosie the Riveter was producing a B-17 bomber every 45 minutes and a battleship a week. How do you do that? How do you do that? Well, it was a system that Deming put in place. Remember, we said, well, is this about the product? No, the product is the basic, the wonderful tool, the wonderful opportunity we have, but it's not this, it's this in the system. And right brainers will get the system and left brainers will just go sell bands. And the difference in results 4 years from now will be drastic. It won't even be close, okay? Because the heart getting engaged is much more important than a heart dominated by the pocketbook. A heart dominated by the pocketbook will seek to dominate people instead of be a quantum leader. And a quantum leader is concerned about every serious person. I can't be serious for Thea. Jim Lewis is here. Jim Lewis says, I keep praying to the Lord, relieve me to people that's good dirt. Meaning what? Open to change. Left brain oxen resists what we're talking about today. And I guarantee you, I'm seeing 192, and everybody's got an ox, and some of them are hugely engaged today. And they're not engaged saying, well, this is wonderful. How do I learn to do that? I didn't know I had that. I didn't know I was a genius, or I thought I was a genius just because I made great grades in school and I'm really smart. Well, there isn't anybody in greater danger than the person that thinks they're smart, because they can never tap into their genius, because their genius is not functioning over there on the left. I don't care how high your grades were or how big your PhD is. I don't care. Doesn't matter what. That's just the way it is. Okay, so Dr. Deming, he changed the world. After he changed the world from Japan, finally in America started waking up. But America started waking up after American companies were starting to go bankrupt. And he put a huge warning out. And his warning was this: change or have expensive funerals. And he's focused originally on the car industry. And there were some expensive funerals. Yeah, there's some car manufacturers that no longer exist. And there's others that would not be in existence if a government hadn't bailed them out. Many, by the way. So here's what Deming said: that we have to use profound knowledge. What is profound knowledge? If it's profound, it applies everywhere. It's not profound if it says, well, but what's this got to do with doing bands? Because I'm over here doing this and I'm doing all right over here. Well, you're not using profound knowledge, because profound knowledge is changing the whole system. And what do you say? The structure, the way the world does business is wrong, and the worker is not to blame. So the Deming way requires profound knowledge. Profound knowledge is universal to all business. If it doesn't apply to all businesses, it's not profound. Deming's philosophies require a transformation. Now, we just scratched the surface about transformation. Authentic transformation is when the heart changes and the butterfly gets loose instead of the frog that learns words and croaks and hops. That's left brain, sequential learning. I got the words, I've got it. No transformation. And the motivational field, in quotes, and the self-help industry are full of gurus that come in, they give transformation teachings, and people get their plate full, they eat all the flies they want, and they hop back to their places and they say, I just went to a wonderful transformation seminar. Yeah, but well, what about tomorrow? And what about tomorrow? What about tomorrow? Well, you should have heard that seminar. Yeah. Okay. Now this applies to us. Mike's totally wide open to this. Alex is open. Remember, I started teaching Alex this years ago. A company that wants to transform has to change completely, including its most fundamental beliefs and practices. There's a thing that we will all learn together that goes this way. Lord, teach me what I need to know that I don't know, and teach me what I believe that's not true. I know that I know that I know that there's things right now that I believe that are not true. I just wish I knew what they were. I wouldn't believe them. But you discover it one step at a time. Deming talks about 3 ways to attempt change. Would you like to hear this? It's really wonderful. Outside pressure. He called outside pressure prizes or punishment. Outside pressure. Oh, that's a way we can get change. Let's say that if you do this and you get 30 customers, we'll give you this. And if you don't get your 10 widgets done today, you get fired. No, ma'am. Number 2, genuine desire. Try harder. Has anybody here ever tried harder? Has anybody here ever been told to try harder? Has anybody ever told that the reason that you're not succeeding is you're not trying hard enough? Well, Deming had a theorem that went like this: we're ruined by best efforts. Somebody make close note of it. We're ruined by best efforts. What an incredible statement. Try harder. He said, no, if you did your best, then sit down and think. Don't try harder to do what you've already done and didn't work. That's insanity, but it's what's taught. Try hard enough, and a leader that is not getting the results they want out of people will blame the people. Structure the way the world does business is wrong, and the worker's not to blame. Structure of the way the world does business is wrong, and the people are not to blame. But leaders will blame people. Deming sounds like a preacher. He said, we have to restore the individuals. So everybody that's here that says, what's this got to do with this? I really feel sorry for you, to tell you the truth. Because you don't understand that we're talking about a movement that can impact people's lives. And we need to restore people by learning how to live by vision. And 99.9% of the people don't live by vision. They get up and do what they do because that's what their job is to do. Because somebody else says this is what you're supposed to do. I'm not talking about being a rebel. I'm talking about getting the line free so you can discover what it is you're on the planet for. Progress and understanding. I love that phrase. Progress from understanding comes from discovering that a proposition we believe to be correct has been replaced by one that's more correct, or that even contradicts the old proposition. What? Structure of the way the world does business wrong, the worker's not to blame. The structure of the way network marketing, multi-level work for 75 years is wrong, and the worker's not to blame. How can you have 97% failure rate? If Deming had ever seen that, he'd say, oh my goodness, every one of those leaders needs to be on one of my seminars because they don't understand. There's something really wrong with the system. There's something really wrong with the way things are done. There's going to be progress in understanding. We have to keep thinking. His conclusion was this: no nation needs to be poor. It's not the desire of the people of a nation to work hard that determines prosperity. What? Oh, I'm sorry. Went past my other one. Number 3 is transformation. Transformation is an entirely different view, and the only one that works long term. It's not outside pressure. It's not gifts, and it's not punishment. It's not trying harder. It's transformation. He changed the world from Japan because they turned loose Japanese workers and turned the creativity loose. And Japanese workers, within 2 years, any worker could shut down the assembly line. Any worker, because he saw something was wrong. And before long, we started saying, I want a Japanese car. I want a Japanese telephone. I don't want it made in America because it's not worth anything in America compared to what's coming out of there. And the Japanese in the 90s were buying skyscrapers in the United States to make us happy with all the money they were making from the cars we were buying. It's not the desire of a people of a nation to work hard that determines prosperity. It's the belief system and the profound knowledge of management that determines prosperity. Can't go any further than management is going to let you go. That's not possible. So I think the next place that I'd like to go to, just because of time, I see where we are time-wise, and we'll do more of these, but I want to go to Future Edge. If we go look at, well, let's do principle-centered leadership first. That's going to be number 3. We'll skip number 2 for right now.
It is actually number 2.
Oh, what is?
Principle-centered leadership is after the Deming.
Okay, hold on.
So it's on page 5.
Yeah, excuse me, 1 minute. Okay, thank you. Principle-centered leadership. This was Covey's second book. So he did highly effective, the 7 habits of highly effective people. Then he did principle-centered leadership. And then his crowning work by far was the one that nobody's read because it called for transformation. And you can't do that with the ox. Almost every significant breakthrough is a result of a courageous break with traditional ways of thinking. Everybody get that? Almost every significant breakthrough is a result of a courageous break with traditional ways of thinking. The cutting edge expression is a paradigm shift. You got to remember, this was written in the late 90s. Paradigm shift has been overworked, but if it's real, it's huge. I believe that what we're doing here together as a family with what Mike has brought to the table. I got to be in a conversation yesterday with a doctor, and he told me about a system that he's using and that it's got some energy flow to it, and it costs $100 a month and all that kind of stuff. And I was able to say something just very, very succinct. I named the company and I said they're obsolete. One and done, no auto ship. You don't have to buy every month. You don't have to say, well, but that patch does pretty good, except it runs out here. And I got to have $100 more next month. No, that's obsolete. Well, that's a paradigm shift, okay? A paradigm is what? It's a pattern. It's a structure. It's really an image. It's a map for understanding. It's a model. That just said image, didn't it? And it's the rules of the game. This is huge. We can't embrace a new paradigm until we let go of the old one. It's not possible. The heart won't go there. The heart's holding on to the old one. We'll be blinded by the old one. Say, well, wait a minute, I can't really see this. I still like this. Well, you don't like that. You just don't know there's something else. Many of those who climb the ladder of success, when they reach the top rung, discover to their dismay that the ladder is leaning on the wrong wall. So what's the wrong wall? The wrong wall is personal production only. What the Father said to Adam was, be fruitful. That's personal production. Multiply. That's the production of others that you've led and trained and helped. And number 3, have dominion over the whole earth. So that's the right ladder. The right wall is fruitfulness, multiplication, and dominion. That's where we get the results. Now watch the statement at the bottom. That's huge, folks. All of this it takes behavioral modification and all the ways you try to artificially perform and throws them away so you can be real. Anytime that I am attempting to perform, I'm not being authentic. You can't be performing and be authentic. The people whose music that we appreciate the absolute most are people that are so inside their music that even when they are in their music, they're really in their music and they're not aware of their audience. If you're aware of your audience, you are where your heart is, and your heart cannot be totally lost in the music. and in the place music takes you, if you're still aware of everybody out here, it's not possible. Okay? So if you want to make slow, incremental improvement, change your attitude. Just change your attitude. You got a bad attitude, change it. Or your behavior. If you want to improve in major ways, you have to change your paradigm. This is a paradigm shift. Yeah, quantum supremacy is a paradigm shift. Rediscovery of the heart's a paradigm shift. None of them small. The compensation model is paradigm shift, 3 dimensions. You can't get to dominion in a 2-dimensional model. We know it. 75 years of proof. Paradigm shifts open up a whole new area of insight, knowledge, and understanding, resulting in, oh, amazing, he wrote this in the 90s, a quantum difference in performance. I hope everybody's seeing how this is unfolding, and it's unfolding in an incredible way. The place I'd like to go next is, I'd like to go to Future Edge by Joel Barker. So if everybody could look at that.
Page 7.
And what we're going to do, we will stop after this, see what kind of questions we have, because there's just so many places we can go, and I really appreciate you being here. Your willingness to be open to learn. And for those of you, many are here because of Dr. Lloyd. I hope that you understand that what I'm sharing with you today, and Thea's sharing with you today, is what I started teaching Alex Lloyd 32 years ago, and look where his life changed. When he came to me, see his own testimony. His wife had kicked him out of the house, said you didn't want anything to do with him. Anyway, he said, I'd gone to the best all over because of where his reach was, and nothing was any different. He came, asked me if I would mentor him, and I said, under one condition. And I would say that to you, although I know how you could read this really wrong. Okay. I said, I'll do it under one condition. He said, what? I said, that you forget everything you've been taught. I've said that to every single PhD in psychology that I've mentored. I've said that to every medical doctor. I've said that to every minister. I don't know how to do what I'm here to do until we start over Genesis chapter 1 and see how the Father put this thing in motion, and then get to where he says, what is man? And he creates man. We don't even talk about it. 2 lives. Breathed in his nostril the breath of life. Stay, and I can't find any place in Hebrew or English that will translate it accurately. It's translated as singular, the breath of life. It doesn't say life, it said lives, plural. We're not even hinted at that, but that's what it's really all about. And so it's start over time. If we don't know what the heart is, we don't know what language it speaks or how to get there, then why is it not start over time? Okay, so let's do Future Edge, and then we will see what comments or questions we might have for a few minutes. Future Edge by Joel Barker. Joel Barker is the man who was the #1 lecturer in all of that period of time in the 80s, 90s, all that period of time, with paradigm shifts. His first book was called All About Paradigms. They just simply changed the title and put Future Edge. And so out of Future Edge, he talked about paradigm shifts, and he was the #1 guy in the world talking about paradigm shifts. Now, what you saw when we talked about the rhesus monkey is really huge here. Paradigms are physiological filters. Any data that does not fit your paradigm has a difficult time getting through your filters. Paradigms are physiological, they're not psychological. They are the way the synapses in your brain right now are programmed to see. Obviously, this shows up big time when we start talking about third dimension and people say it can't see. But I'm talking to programmers. I'm talking to people that program 300, 400, 500 times, and they say, well, wait a minute, I can't see this. I'm talking to a PhD in mathematics that teaches mathematics. And I can say to him, it's amazing. You talk three dimensions, but you can't see it. We live in a three-dimensional world, and we've not been taught to think in three dimensions. So when we start talking about three dimensions, people say, wait a minute, I can't get this. How does this work? Well, math has to move three different directions, or you can't pick up a glass and put anything in it. Every single thing in the room you're in is three-dimensional. Nothing two-dimensional works. Two dimensions is a mathematical concept. There are no two dimensions. Everything's three. But we've not been taught that. Okay, so physiological filters, not psychological. The paradigm effect. That's the fill-in. Paradigm effect is when data right before your eyes can't be seen. Paraplegics, they can't see anymore to walk. Why? They've lost them. They're gone. Or it's never been put there in the first place. What happened with Thea, and she was, when Thea made her turn, she started learning at warp speed. I've never been with anybody who learned any faster because she turned. And when she turned, I told her, I said, Thea, it won't be long before you're teaching me. And she thought that's one of the most foolish things she had ever heard. But the minute that she turned and stopped resisting what the father was saying about the way the world was, she started seeing. And it wasn't long before she started seeing that she started writing me books. They were called emails about what she was seeing. And she started teaching me. We will teach each other. Than anybody here that's anything other than a baby in the things of the heart. So you can rest assured about that. But the paradigm effect is when data right before your eyes can't be seen. Now, I want you to hear this one because it's huge. Paradigm paralysis. Paradigm paralysis is a terminal disease of certainty. You can't win the marketing wars of the 21st century with the stories of the 20th. It's not possible. The future is coming at us at warp speed, and it's not like it was in the past. There are things that are like in the past, but you get the point. He called a paradigm shift, a paradigm paralysis, a terminal disease of certainty. There's no question about what this is going to kill you. Kill your business. That's what it means. He's dealing in a business context. When a paradigm shift takes place, everyone goes back to zero. The major thing about the paradigm shift is that it takes an authentic paradigm shift some years to be fully manifest. Why? Because it's resisted so strong by the vested interests. Everybody hear it? Open hearts, open to change, open to see things differently. Well, it's resisted. No, I don't want this to change. 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 There's three roles in a paradigm shift. I absolutely love this. Number one is the shifter. He's got a great story and where he talks about where are the wild ducks when we need them. I'm not exactly sure. I've never been able to figure out exactly what he meant by wild ducks, but he told a really good story. There's this major corporation with the CEO's executive secretary that was really, really sharp, and she really, really was efficient. She worked hard, and she was paid well. But after 2 years' time, she finally comes in and asks to talk to the CEO. She said, this is just not right. What's not right? Tom, I come in here, I'm here at 8 o'clock, I'm faithful, I work hard all day long, nonstop. Tom comes in whenever he wants to. He'll get here usually by 10 or 10:30 or something like that. Tom goes into his office, puts his feet up on his desk, and looks out windows. And you pay Tom a whole lot more than you pay me. And he said to her, are there many other executive secretaries that you know that are paid any better than I paid you? No. Well, Tom made us $20 million last year looking out of windows. You leave Tom alone. Tom's a shifter. You don't know where Tom is. He's got his feet up, and you think Tom ain't doing anything. Tom's changing the world and saving us money and taking us in the future. Leave Tom alone. Tom's a shifter. Now, here's what's huge about this. The next statement that he made was, the second one is a pioneer. And he makes this a statement about pioneers we're going to come to in just a minute. And the third one is the settler, the shifter, the pioneer, the settler. Well, there are aspects in which Mike is for sure a shifter. What he has done is a shifter. There's aspects in which Alex is a shifter, and there's aspects in which I'm a shifter. Okay? None of us are shifters in everything. Nobody can be a shifter in everything. Everybody's got their place. But the pioneer is the one that gets all the advantage. So let's go down to the key points. The paradigm shifter is almost always an outsider. Why would it be that the paradigm pioneer is almost always an outsider? Because he's not blinded by the old paradigm. I wonder if he might be called Brazos. I wonder if he might be called Amazon. I'm going to tell you a wonderful story in just a minute. But Theo, would you tell me to be sure to remember to tell a wonderful story? It's not so wonderful. It's painful, but I'll tell you anyway. Paradigm pioneers get all the advantages of the paradigm shifter. Whoa, what does that mean? Well, Mike last night really sincerely thanked everybody for being there. Because there's no shifter that can shift by himself. It's not possible. And person-to-person communication is the only way shifting ever takes place. Google got big because a whole lot of people told a whole lot of people who told a whole lot of people who told a whole lot of people who told a whole lot of people about Google. Amazon got big because a whole lot of people said, have you heard about Amazon? Have you heard about it? Amazon, you heard about it? Amazon. See, I don't care how big you are, you need somebody talking about an Apple Watch or an Apple phone. It's never anything gets done without word of mouth communication, person to person. We just need to be paid. If we're going to do that, shouldn't we get paid? I think we should be get paid somewhere. Okay? So there's no shifter that can shift without pioneers that help him shift. So all the advantages can be there. Now, just think about this, folks. This is a guy writing, and he doesn't know from up in detail about what the heart's all about, but he knows that the pioneering decision is an act of heart and not head. I love talking to Lisa because Lisa got this quick, but she got it from the inside. And she says, I'm not worried about all that. I just know this is where I'm supposed to be. I know how this makes me feel. Kay Parker is here. And Kay Parker is one of my best friends. And Kay Parker, the first time that I ever said cubes to her and explained how cubes, she got it. She's one of the few people that ever got it the first time she heard it. She's got a sister that's much, much smarter in her grades than Kay about math. Okay, but who got it first? Not the mathematician, the person with geometry. Remember what Mandelbrot said? I don't play with formulas, I play with pictures, and that's what I've been doing my whole life. And we would not be here right now if it wasn't for Mandelbrot seeing fractals. And if you see fractals, then you say, well, why don't we go change things from the fractal level? Instead of trying out here, we can get smaller and smaller and smaller. We can even get to holograms that some people call the greatest discovery yet, because what? A single dot can hold the whole. That's what's happening right here. Many, 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 many holograms that contain the whole of the frequencies that call the wonderful thing to happen that's happening. Many. Okay. Mandelbrot saw that, and that changed the world. Or we couldn't ever be doing what we're doing because it had to start at a fractal level to get to the smallest level so that we could get the power to do what we're doing. How about, that's just wonderful, isn't it? Okay. The pioneers, paradigm pioneers, never give the settlers an even break. It used to be this way. We're going west. Go west, young man, and you're going to go blaze a trail against all the kind of thing. I was in an Impressionistic center that's on the border of Oregon. There's a huge, multi-million-dollar thing that was built to commemorate the Oregon Trail, and they had a sign up that I saw, and the sign was that one person died every 167 yards across that trail. They died. Huge sacrifice to go develop the West. The settlers are sitting back here and they say, is it safe out there? And when it was finally safe out there, the pioneers would say, well, come on out here. There's plenty out here. That's not the way it is today. The way it is today is when the pioneers blaze the trail, then they say to the settlers, would you like to buy some? They don't give the settlers an even break. It's not that they're mean. It's just, wait a minute. I was in the shift when it took place. I saw it. I embraced it without having an intellectual understanding. I was doing it from the heart. Here, in the paradigm shift, settlers at great risk. For every day the settlers wait, less is left for them. I love saying it this way. The longer you wait, the further behind you get. Let me give you another one. Somebody write this down. It can change your life if you really get it. You cannot make up in speed what you lack in direction. Did I ever tell you that, Thea? You can't make up in speed what you lack in direction. I live in Nashville, Tennessee, south of Nashville. And let's say that I decide, Kim and I, we want to go, we love to go shores. We're going to go shores and take a break. We need one. We're going to the beach. We're going to take a break. We get in the car. I make a wrong turn. Instead of turning south on 65, which is 1.5 miles from my house, I turn north. We drive for about an hour and decide to stop and get a break and go to the bathroom. And I go say, how far is it to Gulf Shores? And they say, well, it's 600 miles. Oh my gosh. We're further away than when we started. Get in the car and say, Kim, we got to hurry because I mean, we're further away than we got to hurry. So I speed up. We go on. The next time we stop, how far is it to Gulf Shores? It's 800 miles. Kim, we really got to hurry. You can't make up in speed what you lack in direction. And if you're going the wrong way and you're doing a dimming, try harder, and you're resisting transformation, don't want to know that stuff about heart. I can't tell you how many people have said, I don't want to know that heart stuff. Just leave it alone. Okay, then just do all you want to do with bracelets. We'll love it, embrace you, we'll pay you, and you will be left behind long term, because there's a paradigm shift taking place that if you close your eyes to it, you can't participate in it. It's called what? Paradigm paralysis, when data right before your eyes can't be seen. It's called a terminal disease of certainty. I didn't say that. These are brilliant people who wrote principles that can change our life if we don't say no to them. Okay? So that's what's taking place. You can't make up in speed what you lack in direction. All right. Let me tell one more story and then I'll stop. We're almost at 1 o'clock. That's fairly good timing here. Okay. How many of you, I wish I could see everybody's hand. How many of you have ever bought anything from Amazon? There's a whole lot of people raising their hand. Okay. You've at least heard of Amazon, right? They moved closer. They moved a major thing in Nashville, and they're delivering all over my world here now. They'll even deliver your groceries. Prime will deliver your groceries, okay? I'm going to tell you a secret if you promise to not tell everybody. I've been blessed to be able to have meetings with some really, really potent people. Have you ever heard of Microsoft? How many of you have ever heard of Microsoft? When Bill Gates retired from being the CEO, he put his roommate in college in, Steve Ballmer. So Steve Ballmer was number 3. Alan and Bill Gates and Steve Ballmer was number 3. Now, one of the things that we frequently are saying here, that God made nothing but geniuses, right? But brilliant people aren't always brilliant. Okay. The ox can really get in the way. In 96, I had a meeting with Steve Ballmer. The #1 book anticipated to come out was written by Bill Gates, and it came out in the early 90s. I can't remember. I've got it here someplace. Guess what the name of the book was? Brilliant People Aren't. Please understand, brilliant people aren't always brilliant. Bill Gates wrote a book entitled, in the 90s, The Road Ahead. Anybody want to guess what he left out? The internet. He left out the internet. It was the fastest major rewrite of a book in history, because by the time it got out and was selling, they were feverishly writing 4 more chapters exclusively on the internet, so that the second edition would include the internet. Because how can you have brilliant Bill Gates talking about the road ahead and leave out the internet? It's not possible. So he resigns as CEO. He's still chairman, but he puts his buddy that been with him from the start as CEO, Steve Ballmer. I had a meeting with Steve Ballmer that was supposed to last 15 minutes. And in that meeting, I described you. I not only described you, I described you and everybody else on the planet. And I said, I've got an idea, and it's called the new economy. What? Well, the president that year talked about the new economy. Well, I happened to copyrighted the name, the new economy. I own the name. So I'm sitting with Steve Ballmer, and I'm supposed to have 15 minutes. Now, I didn't do something with you that I wish I had. And I've done this many times. There's so much here. But it's this, to say, if you could use one word to describe the world we live in today, what one word would you choose? The number one answer is chaos or chaotic. And I can stand in front of 1,000 people and get 900 of them to agree. So I went into that meeting. And how do you get the attention of a guy that is not wanting the meeting with you and he's giving you 15 minutes? How do you do that? Well, you have to make it a heart issue, don't you? You have to be able to say something that captures his heart, don't you? So I carried in the second edition, The Road Ahead. And so he said to me, the man that took me in's wife was his executive secretary that had been with him from start. That's the only way the meeting. You don't get meetings with guys like him. But that's how the meeting takes place. So he says, what's this meeting all about? And I said, well, let me read. And I got the book. And I got the book like this. And then I said, oh, by the way, and I knew that Steve was as much involved with writing that first book. That's who they were. You follow me? I knew that I knew. So I did this. And I said, oh, by the way, I think it was really a good idea to include the internet. He looked at me and said, yeah, that was a good addition. I said, well, let me read you a line from here. Bill Gates says that there have to be companies that are big enough that they can spend $200 million developing a product and have the product fail and still be around to spend another $200 million to find the next product that's really going to be accepted. And he said, the reason we have to do it is we do not know what the consumer wants. And I put the book down and I said, I know what the consumer wants. He said, oh, you do? And I said, yes, sir. He said, what does he want? I said, income. He said, income? I said, yeah. He's petrified of the future. And then I asked him this question. I said, I do lectures on rediscovery of the heart all across North America. So let me say it to you this way. If you could use one word to choose the world we live in today, what word would you choose? He said, chaos. I said, wow, now you're surprising me. He said, why? I said, well, because you're worth $17 billion. But I do know why you said chaos. And he said, you know why I said chaos? I said, yeah, I know why. Because 3 weeks after you took place, 6 weeks ago, 3 weeks after you got here, the federal government came and said, we're breaking up Microsoft because you're a monopoly. You would not have said chaos 6 weeks ago. And he turned to the guy that had brought me in there and said, Rich, who is this guy? So I said, well, that's people petrified of the future. So let me tell you how we can have a huge impact on the world. How? Put $10 million in the new economy. What are we going to do? we're going to create an override economy in the world where consumers make money only where they spend money. And we can go get them. We can go get them all. He said, well, why would anybody do that? Why would they pay? Because if you're just going to do that, then the merchants will just raise prices. So they raise prices, and I'm in that loop. I make more money. But you don't understand that you are so big that if we announce my math model with this concept, we can just blow things away. He didn't get it because he was an ox. And if he'd got it, you would have never heard of Amazon. Because what I put in front of him is much bigger than Amazon. Because Amazon's giving you affinity, little pieces of money. And my model would have given us all nice little pieces of money on everything being bought. But Steve Ballmer said, well, it's a nice idea, but $10 million. And Microsoft, he didn't have to do anything. Just put the money up, make an announcement to everybody that person-to-person marketing is now being done by who? Microsoft, and not affiliate market being introduced over the years by Amazon that's paying pennies. That's what paradigm shifts are all about. That's what being able to see what can't be seen is all about. You know, we've got an opportunity here to open up a door. And I can tell you this for sure, that if I get to live, and I don't know that I'll live past this afternoon, but if I get to live and we do what we've got the opportunity to hear, you will not believe how big a world we're going to open up and where we're going. I can't remotely tell you what I see. I've been seeing it for years. When a paradigm shift, everybody takes place. Everybody goes back to zero. All right. So what's this about? It's about sharing this wonderful, wonderful development that Mike has done with as many people as possible, as fast as possible. It's the foundation is a fractal root where what? Everybody unleashes math like they've never experienced. If they teach everybody to get three, get three, get three, get three, get three, go as wide as you can go personally, get three, get three, get three. Who you know that doesn't need this? And these testimonials that are coming in are literally blowing us away. That's what's in front of us. That's what's in front of us. So Thea, thank you. Then we have a whole bunch of questions here because it's time, I think. Okay. All right. Thank you for being here.
Questions, more information about the bands is what we do all week long on Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday nights. You just go to the 5gsolution.com and you go and look at the Join Us Live and see the schedule.
Yep, that's good. Well, those of you who are asking about the bands, I will say this to you. You can't imagine how many people said, can we come and learn about the heart instead of about the bands? So there is a hole here, okay? And nobody can remotely think that we've got the hole. We're looking for, watching for the hole. I'll give you this and then I promise you I'm going. But this is what Deming said. It was a huge thing that we are applying as best we can. The thing we need to know most right now is unknowable. So everybody keep their eyes open. Where's the next thing that we need to know that can enable us to take the next step forward? That's the place of humility. That's where he lived his life. He stayed constantly open to learning. That's where we are. That's what we want. So spread the word, open your heart, You don't get to the top by climbing, you get to the top by flying. You can't fly until you get to the wings of the wind, and the wings of the wind are where? Like the eagles, up high, further back and higher up than we've ever been before. Thank you, Thea. I'm going to have a hamburger.
So
Bye-bye.
if you want to know more about the bends, you go to the 5dsolution.com. If you want to know more about the heart, you go to rediscoveryoftheheart.com.
Okay.
Whatever way you came in from, because we brought everybody together from both worlds. So whatever you want to know more about. And by the way, the Rediscovery of the Heart, we're soon going to be starting over with all the insights.
Okay. Bye-bye, everybody. Thank you so much.
Bye-bye.
Bye.